Chapter 735. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. More novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. In the Mu family, Old Master Mu also received the news that Consort Wan was banished to the Cold Palace. When the emperor issued an edict to punish Consort Wan, the eunuch in the palace hurriedly sent the news to the Mu family through his connections. Old Master Mu was furious. He slammed his fist on the table. "How dare you?" The butler comforted him. "Old Master, don't be angry. Don't hurt your health." Cough, cough, cough. Old Master Mu coughed violently. Old Master Mu's body was not as strong as the old fox of the Han family. The butler hurriedly poured water for him. "Drink some water first. Calm down." Old Master Mu gritted his teeth. "My daughter was wronged and sent to the Cold Palace. How can I calm down? Where is Mu Tao?" The butler hurriedly said, "Call him." Old Master Mu pondered for a moment and ordered, "Send a letter to the Su family. Old Master Su won't be in Chengdu these days. Ask Su Yuan to come over." "Yes." The butler hurried away and didn't notice Mu Chuan, who was eavesdropping outside the window. Mu Chuan hesitated for a moment and quickly disappeared into the vast sky. Su Yuan and Mu Qingchen arrived at the Mu family at the same time. Su Hao followed behind Su Yuan, and Mu Qingchen was called by Mu Chuan from the Qianqiong Academy. It was still dark. In order to open the city gate, Mu Chuan even used his father's token. "Fourth brother, you're here too." Su Hao smiled and greeted him. Mu Qingchen looked indifferent. Mu Chuan said angrily, "What are you doing here? He was just a bastard. How dare he bring him to the Mu family? If it weren't for this bastard, his aunt wouldn't have been so angry." Su Hao said guiltily, "Fourth brother, you're not at home, so you don't know. Father was injured when he was practicing martial arts at home yesterday. I was worried, so I insisted on coming. It's all my fault. Please don't blame father." The two looked at Su Yuan. His waist was indeed wrapped in thick bandages. "Go in," Su Yuan said. In the parlor, Old Master Mu sat on the main seat with a pale face. His eldest son, Mu Tao, stood beside him respectfully. Su Yuan saluted Old Master Mu. "Father-in-law." Grandpa Mu hummed in agreement. Grandpa Mu had a grudge against this son-in-law of his. Old Master Mu only had two daughters. One married into the palace, and the other married into the Su family. The Mu and Su families were connected by marriage. The Su family was considered to be climbing up the social ladder by marrying the daughter of the Mu family. However, this Su Yuan did not know what was good for him. He actually had a mistress outside and even let the mistress give birth to a son a day earlier than his wife. There were a total of 3 branches in the Su family. The eldest and second young masters belonged to the second branch, while Su Hao and Mu Qingchen belonged to the eldest branch. Su Yuan was the heir of the Su family. Logically speaking, Mu Qingchen, as the son of the first wife, would inherit the Su family business in the future. However, Su Yuan was very sincere when he admitted his mistake. All these years, Mu Qingchen had been following his mother's surname. Su Yuan had tolerated it and treated Mu Qingchen well. Su Yuan had also made it clear that only Mu Qingchen could inherit the position of the head of the Su family. However, Mu Qingchen had to change his surname back when the day came. Old Master Mu's eyes fell on the bandage on Su Yuan's waist and abdomen. He asked, "Are you hurt?" Su Yuan said, "I accidentally twisted it when I was practicing martial arts. It's just a small injury. It's nothing serious. Sit down." Old Master Mu said and gestured for Mu Tao to sit down. Su Yuan and Mu Tao sat down on both sides of Old Master Mu. Old Master Mu looked at Mu Qingchen with a kind look. "Qingchen, you've lost weight recently. Is it because the life in the academy is too hard?" Mu Qingchen said, "No, it's just because the weather is hot." Old Master Mu had always doted on Mu Qingchen. However, he was not in the mood to play with his grandson at this critical moment. He raised his hand tiredly. Sit down. He did not speak to Su Hao. Instead, he looked at the door. Okay, come in. Mu Chuan touched the bridge of his nose and walked in resentfully. No matter what kind of relationship Mu Qingchen had with Su Yuan in private, he still behaved politely on the surface. He sat down beside Su Yuan. Su Hao was about to sit down on the other side of Mu Qingchen when Mu Chuan came over. I want to sit with my fourth brother. Get over here. Mu Tao shouted. Mu Chuan curled his lips bitterly after being shouted at by his father. He walked over reluctantly and sat down beside his father. Old Master Mu did not beat around the bush. He said bluntly, I'll cut to the chase. I asked you to come here before dawn because of something in the palace. I guess you all know what happened to Concubine Wan. Su Yuan nodded. Steward Lu told me on the way here. What's going on? Concubine Li made a mistake. What does it have to do with Concubine Wan? Mu Qingchen heard it from Mu Chuan. He was more thorough than the steward. The steward had to choose his words carefully when speaking to Su Yuan. There was nothing that he could not say. Mu Chuan just spilled the beans. He directly said that it was the Han family who framed Concubine Wan. Also, his aunt was a little complacent. The Mu family did not give her so much money every year for her to squander. Concubine Li's father was sick and she gave her 3,000 taels. Did she know how hard it was to earn 3,000 taels? He had 2 aunts, but to be honest, his youngest aunt was too brainless. If it were his eldest aunt who entered the palace, she might have already become the crown prince. His eldest aunt was Mu Qingchen's mother. I knew something would happen to her sooner or later. In fact, if it weren't for Concubine Xian's care, she would have been in trouble many times. These were Mu Chuan's words. Mu Chuan also felt helpless about his youngest aunt. Old Master Mu asked Mu Tao to tell him the whole story. He could roughly infer that it was Concubine Han who did it. Concubine Li was bribed by Concubine Han. Her father's serious illness was just an excuse. She asked Concubine Wan for a large sum of money so that Concubine Wan could not get away with it on the day of the accident. It was also Concubine Han's plan that Concubine Li found out about the affair between the head of the palace and the little palace maid. Concubine Han had been in charge of the harem for many years. How could she not know that the head of the palace and the palace maid were having a private affair? However, she did not say anything because she wanted to make it a weakness that she could use to her advantage at any time. Su Yuan said in a deep voice, "This is too much. If she wants to get rid of the dethroned crown princess, then just do it. Why did she have to drag Concubine Wan into this? Is she trying to use this opportunity to make His Majesty angry at the Mu family?" The harem and the previous dynasty had always been intertwined and could not be completely separated. If something happened to Concubine Wan, would the Mu family have a good time? Old Master Mu said coldly, "Humph, how can the Han family's appetite be the same as my Mu family's? In my opinion, the Wang family and the Su family will be targeted by them sooner or later." Old Master Mu's biological sister married into the Wang family. She was now Matriarch Wang. The room was silent for a while. The atmosphere was strange and tense. Old Master Mu said again, "There is nothing to say about the Han family's ambition. There is another key person in this matter." Su Yuan asked hurriedly, "Who?" Old Master Mu said, "Xiao Lulang." Su Yuan faintly felt that the name was familiar. "He is," Old Master Mu said, "a freshman of the Qianqiong Academy, from the Zhao Kingdom. The dethroned crown princess was seriously injured by the head of the palace. Even the state preceptor could not save her. This Xiao Lulang rescued her from the palace of hell. If it were not for him, the Han family's plan to assassinate the dethroned crown princess would have succeeded. And I also heard an interesting thing. The head of the palace is highly skilled in martial arts. He escaped from the palace. It was also Xiao Lulang who helped Wang Su catch the real culprit and interrogate him. If it were not for this Xiao Lulang, the culprit would have escaped. I heard that the state preceptor praised him in person. Since ancient times, heroes come from the young. The state preceptor has been in Shang City for more than 30 years. No one knows where he comes from or where his family is. But his wisdom is well known in the 6 kingdoms. Has he ever praised anyone seriously? Su Yuan remembered where he had heard this name. It was from Su Shui. Father-in-law, you mean? He looked at Old Master Mu. Old Master Mu said thoughtfully, this Xiao Lulang must not fall into the hands of the Han family. He must be used by us. But since he has cured the dethroned crown princess, I guess the emperor's grandson may have thought of the same thing. Su Yuan frowned. The emperor's grandson will try his best to win him over? Old Master Mu snorted. The emperor's grandson and the dethroned crown princess are in a dangerous situation. If we can win over one more person, we will have one more trump card, although it is not very useful. Su Yuan shook his head. It is impossible for the dethroned crown princess to make a comeback. The emperor's grandson is dying. Only the Han family is suspicious. It is unnecessary. Old Master Mu said, the death of the dethroned crown princess is not bad for us. Don't forget that the 10 great families all participated in the annihilation of the Shenyuan family. Su Yuan said, but the Han family should not use us as a stepping stone. Old Master Mu's eyes turned cold. The Han family has indeed gone too far. The Mu family will not sit still and wait for death. Father-in-law, what are your plans? Su Yuan asked. Old Master Mu said with foresight, first, I want to subdue Xiao Lulang. Second, I want the Black Wind cavalry of the Han family. I want the Han family to know that the Mu family is no longer the Mu family of the past. They will pay the price for pulling down Concubine 1. Master Mu. Su Hao suddenly said in a low voice. Old Master Mu looked at him with a gloomy face. Su Yuan also frowned. This was a conversation between the elders. Obviously, it was not the place for a junior to interrupt, not to mention that Su Hao was just a son of a concubine. Su Hao said cautiously, I have something to say. It has something to do with Xiao Lulang. Hearing this, Old Master Mu was a little interested. Go ahead. Su Hao looked at Mu Qingchen and asked softly, Qingchen, I remember that there is a freshman named Xiao Lulang in your team. Is he the one Master Mu mentioned? Old Master Mu, Mu Tao, and Su Yuan all looked at Mu Qingchen. Old Master Mu said, Qingchen, is there such a thing? Mu Chuan secretly glared at Su Hao. Su Hao didn't seem to notice Mu Chuan's warning. He stood up and bowed to Old Master Mu, showing the courtesy of a junior. I heard that Xiao Lulang is not only Qingchen's teammate, but also Qingchen's classmate. Qingchen is also his deskmate. Since Qingchen and Xiao Lulang are good friends, I think that as long as Qingchen is willing to help, he will definitely be able to invite Xiao Lulang to our team. Mu Chuan stood up immediately. Su Hao, what are you talking about? Since when did my 4th brother become good friends with him? It was just a few rounds of boxing matches, that's all. Deskmate. Don't you know that my 4th brother always sits alone? Are you and my 4th brother in the same academy, or are you and my 4th brother in the same academy? Huh. You say it as if you know better than me. Which eye of yours saw it? Su Hao looked like he had been greatly frightened. Mu Tao scolded his son, sit down. Mu Chuan was furious. If my 4th brother doesn't go and recruit Xiao Lulang for the Mu family, he will be a traitor. If he goes and fails to recruit him, it will be my 4th brother's failure and incompetence. Damn you, Su Hao. Su Yuan looked at Mu Qingchen. I heard from Su Shui that Xiao Lulang once saved her life. He is your friend, Qingchen. This was a disguised confirmation of Su Hao's words. Old Master Mu smiled. This was the first smile he showed after hearing the bad news about Concubine 1. That's great. Qingchen's friend is a friend of the Mu family and the Su family. The Mu family will definitely treat him as a distinguished guest. Qingchen, I'll leave this matter to you. Mu Chuan looked at Mu Qingchen with distress. Mu Qingchen replied with a straight face, yes, Qingchen understands. In the State Preceptor Hall, they were busy for most of the night. At dawn, Gu Jiao fell asleep on the table. Xiao Hang sent Gu Chongqing out of the state preceptor hall. Xiao Heng handed him a note. Here. Gu Chongqing asked, "What is this?" Xiao Heng said, "Lines." Gu Chongqing refused. "No, I want to say that my sister wrote it for me." Xiao Hang twitched the corner of his mouth and pinched the note back. "Okay, whatever." In the Crown Prince's mansion. The Crown Prince was about to go to the morning court. A servant reported to him what happened in the palace. After a moment of silence, he raised his hand. "I see. You can leave now." Just as he was about to set off, a servant came over with a respectful look. "Your Highness, there is someone outside who wants to see you." The Crown Prince asked suspiciously, "At this time? Who is it?" The servant said, "He said his name is Pang Hai and he works in the underground martial arts field." The Crown Prince was slightly surprised. "Bring him in." "Yes." The servant went to bring Pang Hai into the Crown Prince's mansion. Pang Hai did not enter the mansion alone. There was a lone swordsman beside him. Pang Hai bowed to the Crown Prince in the parlor. "I am Pang Hai. Greetings to your Highness. May your Highness live for 1,000 years. No need for formalities," the Crown Prince said. The lone swordsman did not bow. He just stood there like an unshakable iceberg. What a strong aura. He was definitely not an ordinary person. The Crown Prince looked at the lone swordsman strangely. "He is," Pang Hai said, "he is an expert that I have carefully selected." Last time, he arranged to meet with Prince Ming at Qianxiong Pavilion. However, people from the government suddenly appeared. It was inconvenient for us to show up, so we had to leave first. "Today, we are here to disturb you." The Crown Prince was stunned. "He is the King of Hell?" The entire underground martial arts field was filled with the legends of the King of Hell. The experts of the 6 countries gathered in the Zhao Kingdom. They set off from the capital of the Zhao Kingdom. The competition began on the first day of their departure. Out of 100 experts, only 5 were able to enter the Yen Kingdom. The underground martial arts field of the Yen Kingdom was filled with experts who were selected through this perverted method. These 5 people were going to fight fiercely and cruelly in the hands of all the experts. The King of Hell was the one with the best record. Pang Hai said, "It is him." The Crown Prince came to the lone swordsman. "What is your name?" Gu Chongqing was domineering. He said word by word, "I will not change my name. Long Outyen." The Crown Prince was speechless. "Digression," Han Yi said. "Crown Prince, don't believe him. His name is Gu Chongqing. He is the one who hurt me." Long Outyen Gu Chongqing said, "Oh, you are talking about the twin brother who pretended to be me? Don't worry, I have already killed him." Han Yi was speechless. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1068592444. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 736. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are available here. Gu Jiao wanted to use the name Long Outyen when she was still in the Zhao Kingdom's underground martial arts arena. However, the Zhao Kingdom was strict and did not allow ordinary people to use the word Long, so she could only choose the name Xiong Batian. The Yen Kingdom did not seem to have any taboos in this area, so Gu Jiao generously gave the name Long Outyen to Gu Chongqing. Because it was a name given by his sister, Gu Chongqing was very satisfied. Because of this crazy name, the Crown Prince was speechless. But now that Han Shizhi was injured, the Crown Prince needed a powerful martial artist. Long Outyen came at the right time. Pang Hai whispered to Gu Chongqing, "Why did you change your name?" Gu Chongqing said without changing his expression, "Oh, I'm tired of using my old name." People in the underground martial arts arena used aliases, so he directly said Gu Chongqing, making Pang Hai think it was an alias. Pang Hai was too lazy to care. Whether or not Pang Hai was a martial artist, the Crown Prince did not believe him. The Crown Prince called the brocade guards to exchange a few moves with Gu Chongqing. 10 brocade guards were defeated by Gu Chongqing in a few moves. The Crown Prince's eyes flashed with surprise. He asked his trusted guard, "How is his ability compared to Han Ye's?" The guard looked at Gu Chongqing, who had put away his sword, with a complicated expression. He said in a small voice, "I feel that his martial arts might be above Crown Prince Han's." The Crown Prince smiled. "Is that so? In that case, I've picked up a treasure." The guard hesitated for a moment and said, "Is this person reliable? Is he sincere in seeking refuge with your highness?" The Crown Prince said confidently, "I am the Crown Prince, the future monarch of the Yen Kingdom. A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. As long as he is not stupid, he will follow me wholeheartedly. But you are right. The underground martial arts arena is full of good and bad people. I cannot trust anyone easily. Go and get the things." "Yes." His trusted bodyguard left. The Crown Prince walked over and stopped them. "All right, the fight is over." The embroidered uniform guards released long sighs of relief. His trusted bodyguard brought over a small porcelain bottle. The Crown Prince smiled at Gu Chongqing and said, "Drink this. From now on, you are my trusted aide." Pang Hai glanced at the porcelain bottle and rubbed his nose guiltily. He did not mention this to Gu Chongqing before he came. The Crown Prince's residence wasn't that easy to enter. There was a price. Gu Chongqing didn't even ask what it was. He raised his head and drank the contents of the porcelain bottle in one gulp. They were a little dumbfounded. The Crown Prince laughed. "Good. How refreshing. I really admire your character. What you drank was poison. You need to take the antidote once a month, otherwise you will die from the poison. But don't worry, as long as you are loyal to me, I will let you live longer than anyone else." The Crown Prince was very satisfied with Long Outyen. Originally, such an expert did not have the right to have his own courtyard. But the Crown Prince decided to make an exception for Long Outyen. He ordered the servants to tidy up an elegant courtyard and even arranged a few servants for Long Outyen. When Long Outyen said that he did not like to be restricted, the Crown Prince agreed. Coming out of the Crown Prince's residence, Pang Hai asked Gu Chongqing, "Why are you following me?" Gu Chongqing said, "I want to go to the outer city. Give me a ride." "No, I'm not going to the outer city." Pang Hai felt the pressure from Gu Chongqing's Long Outyen. "You think you are so great just because you changed your name? Why do I feel that you are so arrogant? Is this name more awesome than Yama?" Pang Hai waved his hand. Okay, I will send you there." Gu Chongqing got into Pang Hai's carriage. The morning sun was rising. Old Master Mu ended his conversation with Su Yuan. His general direction remained the same. He still talked about the same two things, recruiting Xiao Lulang and getting the Black Wind Cavalry. The former was for Mu Qingchen, while the latter was for Old Master Mu. Old Master Mu said, "Su Yuan, come to my study with Mu Tao." She had something to say to them alone. Mu Qingchen said, "Grandpa, Mu Chuan and I will go back to the academy first." "Go ahead." Old Master Mu nodded kindly. Su Hao said to Su Yuan, "Father, I will wait for you in the carriage." Su Yuan nodded. On the other side, Mu Qingchen and Mu Chuan had turned around and left. Mu Chuan was talking and laughing with Mu Qingchen as close as brothers. She then looked at Su Hao, who was following behind them with a lonely expression. Su Yuan could not help but feel sorry for Su Hao. After leaving the flower hall, Su Hao stopped Mu Qingchen. Brother, did I say something wrong? You don't seem happy. Mu Qingchen frowned. Mu Chuan also stopped and sneered at Su Hao. Now you know you said something wrong? Just now you kept saying that my brother and Xiao Lulang are good friends. I thought your brain was kicked by a donkey. Su Hao said with a puzzled look, but aren't Qingchen and Xiao Lulang good friends? Third sister always says that. Isn't this the problem of being good friends? You are the one who pushed my brother into the fire pit. Mu Chuan took a deep breath. Su Hao, this matter is over. I don't want to argue with you. You should stop before going too far. Su Hao looked at Mu Qingchen and explained, I don't mean any harm. I am just anxious to help my father. If I really said something wrong, I will explain it to my father now. Mu Chuan really couldn't stand the pretentious look of a grown man. The fire in his stomach was ignited by Su Hao all of a sudden. His whole body exploded. He raised his fist and punched Su Hao's face, causing Su Hao to fall to the ground. How? It was Su Yuan's voice. Old Master Mu didn't ask Su Yuan and Mu Tao to go to the study to continue the conversation. He just wanted to explain some details that the children couldn't hear. The three of them came out quickly. They did not expect to see this scene. It was true that the Mu family's status was higher than the Su family's, and Su Hao was also a son of a concubine, but these were not reasons for Mu Chuan to bully Su Hao. When Su Yuan called out, Hao, Mu Chuan had already punched the second time. It was too late to take it back. Su Yuan hit Mu Chuan with a palm with a majestic internal force. Mu Qingchen's figure flashed, and he stood in front of Mu Chuan, reaching out to catch Su Yuan's palm. Su Yuan's face was cold. Mu Qingchen did not dodge. The father and son confronted each other, and the atmosphere was extremely strange. Mu Chuan. Mu Tao also came out. He looked at Mu Chuan, who was hiding behind Mu Qingchen, and then at Su Hao, who was lying on the ground with a bloody nose. What else could he not understand? Mu Tao was so angry that he walked over and pulled his son's ear. Mu Chuan ran away. Grandpa, save me. Mu Chuan rushed over and hid behind Old Master Mu. Mu Tao was so angry that he stomped his feet. Don't hide behind your grandpa. Get out here. You've got guts, haven't you? Who allowed you to hurt others? Mu Chuan was chased up and down by his own father. Mu Tao took off his shoes and hit him with the soles of his shoes. Anyone could see that he hit him hard, but in fact, he did not hit him hard. Old Master Mu said, Chuan, apologize to fourth young Master Su. Mu Chuan curled his lips, glanced at Su Hao, and said reluctantly, I'm sorry. My hand slipped and I hit you just now. You have the same father. My fourth brother is so good at martial arts. Why are your martial arts so lousy? He can knock you down with one punch. Su Yuan helped Su Hao up. Su Hao lowered his head in shame. I've embarrassed you, father. Mu Chuan covered his chest. Wretch. Su Yuan, Su Hao, and Mu Qingchen left the mansion. He asked Su Hao to get into the carriage first. Now that only the father and son were left, Su Yuan questioned, Why didn't you stop Mu Chuan just now? Mu Qingchen asked back, Why should I? You. Su Yuan gritted his teeth. He's your brother. I've never admitted it. Mu Qingchen turned around and got into his own carriage. Mu Chuan was also in the carriage. When he saw Mu Qingchen get in, he moved his body to the side. Fourth brother, sit. He opened the window and saw Su Hao in the Su family's carriage opposite. He lifted the curtain and looked at them. He spat out his tongue in disgust. Leave. Let's go. Mu Qingchen ordered the coachman. The coachman waved the whip and let the horse run. Mu Chuan asked, Fourth brother, are you really going to recruit Lulang? With his character, I'm afraid he's not interested in aristocratic families. It's all Su Hao's fault for talking too much. Mu Qingchen said, Anyway, someone has to find him. If it was not him, it would be someone else. You're right. Mu Chuan nodded. But then again, it's not bad to be the Mu family's assistant. The Mu family cherishes talents very much. As long as they're not the kind of diners who make up the numbers, the Mu family will treat them with courtesy and treat them as distinguished guests. Grandpa is right about this. If it's possible, fourth brother should talk to Lu Lang. You two have a good relationship. I believe he will listen to you. Good relationship? The two of them had long been estranged. State Teacher Hall. Shangguan Yen woke up. Her body was wrapped in gauze and it was inconvenient for her to move for the time being. Gu Jiao put an infusion bottle on her. Gu Jiao buried an infusion needle in her wrist yesterday, so it didn't hurt at all. Shangguan Yen curiously looked at the infusion bottle hanging on the ceiling and asked, "Is this water? Are you trying to inject water into me? When I was in the county town, I saw them give water to pigs and then sell them." Gu Jiao thought for a moment and corrected her, "This is not the way to give water to pigs." The State Teacher Hall's disciple who was sweeping the room, Shangguan Yan's operation was very successful. If it weren't for the other big and small injuries on her body, Gu Jiao would have let her wear armor. Zhang Dequan came over, mainly to visit Shangguan Yen. He also said that the real murderer was caught and concubine Wan was banished to the cold palace. This was also an explanation for Shangguan Yen. Xiao Hang went to the State Teacher Hall's library. He was the emperor's eldest grandson. Except for the third floor, he can read the books and materials on the other two floors. He walked around and asked the State Teacher Hall's disciple who was on duty at the door, "By the way, can I ask where the letter of credence of our Yen country is?" The disciple said, replying to His Highness, "The letter of credence is on the third floor." Xiao Heng asked again, "Except for the state teacher and His Majesty, who else can go up to the third floor?" The disciple said, "There are also two senior brothers on duty." Xiao Heng, "Except for them?" "No." The disciple thought about it and felt that this was not serious. He corrected, "If the state teacher agrees, you can go up, but you can't go up without permission." Xiao Heng, "What will happen if you go up without permission?" The disciple, "There are 8 men of sacrifice near the library. Once someone trespasses, no matter who it is, they will be executed on the spot." Xiao Heng, "Has anyone broken in?" The disciple, "Yes, a lot of people, but no one left alive." It seems that they are not ordinary men of sacrifice. Then the question is, since the defense is so tight, how did the letter of credence of the Yen country come from little Jing Kong's pile of junk? It can't be given to him by the state teacher. Kanglan Women's Academy. Gu Changfeng sent little Jing Kong to Lingbo Academy. Go to class obediently. I will pick you up at noon. Little Jing Kong asked seriously, "Will you take me to the State Teacher Hall to have a meal with Jiao Jiao?" Little Jing Kong had asked this question hundreds of times since he returned to Linglong Pavilion last night. He also asked when he was peeing in the middle of the night, when he was eating in the morning, and when he was walking on the road. Gu Changfeng didn't have Xiao Heng's willpower, so he couldn't take it anymore. He broke down and surrendered, "Okay, I will take you there, okay?" It's so hard to take care of children. Little Jing Kong proudly puffed out his chest. Sure enough, he could handle anyone except his bad brother-in-law. Little Jing Kong carried his bag into the academy with satisfaction. He sat down in his seat. The class posted the results of yesterday's exam. There was no doubt that the first place was Jing Kong. There was a change in the last place, Yen Shui. Other people were answering questions in the exam, but the little princess was drawing tortoises, and she was very serious about it. Little Jing Kong sat in his seat for a while, but his deskmate didn't come. He thought for a while and ran out of the classroom. He came to the back door of the academy. The little princess had to pass by here every time, going through the alley and getting off the carriage at the front door. Little Jing Kong felt that it was very troublesome. Why did she insist on going through the front door? Wasn't the back door better? The emperor had to go to court, so he couldn't send the little princess every day. Usually, the imperial guards would escort her. Today was no exception. Tonghulu, delicious Tonghulu. The little princess heard the Tonghulu shout and saliva flowed down her mouth. "I want to eat Tonghulu," she said to the palace maid beside her. Her eyes were wide open and cute. She didn't speak in an arrogant tone, but in a cute voice that made people's hearts soften. The palace maid smiled. "Little princess, please wait a moment." She stopped the carriage and shouted to the peddler in front of her, "Tong Hulu." The peddler walked over with a smile. "Madam, how many do you want? What flavor?" "I have Tong Hulu, Tong Hulu, Tong Hulu, Tong Hulu, Tong Hulu, and Tong Hulu." The palace maid smiled. "I'm not the madam, it's my little master who wants to eat." She said to the little princess, "You can choose a Tong Hulu." The young princess leaned against the window and stretched her head out. She was drooling over the candied hawthorns, candies this and candies that. At this moment, little Jing Kong saw her and waved at her. She didn't see him. Little Jing Kong ran out. The page boy guarding the door didn't react at all. I. The little princess wanted all of them. Just when the little princess was hesitating, the Tong Hulu peddler's eyes suddenly became sinister. He grabbed the little princess's collar and pulled her out of the window. The palace maid's face turned pale. "Princess, there's an assassin." The imperial guards drew their swords and rushed forward. The peddler threw the Tong Hulu stick at the imperial guards, carried the little princess, and jumped up with lightness skill. Bang! Little Jing Kong jumped and bit his thigh with his little steel teeth. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1068420004. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 737. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. The peddler was stunned by the bite. He almost fell down from the sky on his butt. He tried to shake the little brat off, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the little brat off. Humph. I don't have the iron head technique, but I have little steel teeth. Thanks to my bad brother-in-law for not giving me candy. Little Jing Kong knew how to make use of his advantages. If the peddler used his small hands to hold him, he would have been shaken off. But he used his teeth to bite down on the little brat. If the human trafficker wanted to shake him off, he had to bite off a piece of his flesh. The peddler's thigh muscles tightened. He was afraid that it wasn't tight enough. If the little brat loosened his flesh, it would be bitten off. The imperial guards also surrounded him. The peddler didn't have time to fight with them. He could only leave the scene with one child in his arms and the other hanging on his leg. "You guys, follow me. You, go back to the palace and report to Her Majesty." "Yes." A group of imperial guards chased after the peddler, but they still lost him. The peddler carried the 2 children and ran on roofs and walls, up and down, but the little brat on his leg wouldn't let go. When he arrived at a secluded courtyard, his entire right leg was swollen like a ham. A man in black walked out and looked at his companion in the courtyard with a strange expression. "What's going on? Didn't I ask you to catch only one? Why did you catch another one?" The peddler twitched in pain. "Do you think I want to catch him? Didn't you see how tight this brat is biting?" The man in black took a closer look. It was true. Little Jing Kong was also wearing the uniform of Lingbo Academy. He was obviously a student of the academy. The man in black was confused. Why are they so small? Do they know how to pull up their own pants? How dare they take them from the academy? How poor is Lingbo Academy? The peddler couldn't bear it anymore. Stop looking. Hurry up and get him off me. I know. The man in black waved his hand and walked forward to pull little Jing Kong away. This time, it was easy to pull him down. There was no other reason. Little Jing Kong could not hold on any longer. He had bitten until now because of his stubbornness. Although he had a mouthful of sharp teeth, he had forgotten that he had a weakness for meat. Little Jing Kong fell to the ground with his arms and legs spread out. His eyes rolled back and his tongue stuck out. The young princess had long been scared silly. She did not move, nor did she cry or scream. The man in black and the peddler were quite satisfied. The peddler handed the young princess over to the man in black and said, "Take them away first. I'll go and treat my wound. Then this." The man in black took the young princess and pointed at little Jing Kong, who was lying on the ground with his tongue out. The peddler said impatiently, "Whatever, throw it out." "No." The young Canton princess suddenly opened her mouth and grabbed the man in black's collar with both hands. Her small body was trembling non-stop. Using the most terrified expression, she said the fiercest words, "Don't throw him away." The man in black was stunned for a moment. He turned to the peddler and said, "Why didn't you throw it earlier? Throwing it out now, is it because you don't want to expose yourself fast enough? What if someone sees it? I said it's up to you." The peddler interrupted him. "I'm in so much pain. I'm going to apply medicine." After saying that, he limped to another room. The man in black frowned. He held the young princess in one hand and little Jing Kong in the other hand. Then he locked the two of them in the woodshed. In the throne room, the monarch was in court. Recently, there had been frequent rainstorms in various parts of the Yen kingdom, which had caused many floods in the middle and lower reaches of the river. All the government offices had asked the imperial court for disaster relief. Because there were many disaster areas and the situation was serious, disaster relief became urgent. However, disaster relief was not only a matter of money. It also needed to send troops to fight the floods, repair the dams, and resettle the displaced victims. This year's flood was the worst in 25 years. The monarch had a headache. He pressed the space between his eyebrows and said faintly, "How did the flood happen 25 years ago?" The throne room was completely silent. All the ministers held their ceremonial tablets and looked down. The monarch suddenly realized that he had asked a stupid question. 25 years ago, half of the south was hit by a disaster. It was Shen Yuan Li who led the troops to provide disaster relief. Not only did he repair the dams, save the victims, and save thousands of acres of fertile land, but he also killed 18 local officials who embezzled the disaster funds and exploited the people. He acted first and reported later. Those local officials were involved with the major forces of the provincial capital and even the capital. For a time, the capital was in turmoil. Some people tried to drag Shen Yuan Li down, and some tried to threaten him. Unfortunately, no one succeeded. All the major forces were either uprooted or cut off their tails to survive. In short, after several years, no one dared to think about the disaster relief funds. All the major forces that survived the disaster kept their tails between their legs and became honest officials for a period of time. Just when the monarch was having a headache over the flood, the imperial guards and palace maids who were escorting the young princess returned. The palace maid knelt on the long steps outside the throne room and cried, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty! The young princess has been taken away." The monarch's eyes darkened, and in an instant, he was filled with murderous intent. "What did you say? What happened to the young princess?" The palace maid trembled as she cried, "When our carriage reached the back door of Lingbo Academy, suddenly, a hawker selling candied haws. He took the young princess away." The monarch slapped the armrest of the throne and stood up angrily. "A hawker selling candied haws can take someone away from the imperial guards. What are the imperial guards doing?" Han Ye's father, Han Lei, trembled as he held the ceremonial tablet. Half of the imperial guards were the Han family's forces, and Han Yi was the deputy commander of the imperial guards. He hoped that the imperial guards who were escorting the young princess this time were not personally promoted by his son. Otherwise, the Han family would be charged with dereliction of duty. The monarch called the imperial guard who came back to report to the palace. To Han Lei's disappointment, this person was called Zhang Feng, and he was Han Ye's subordinate. Han Lei's heart sank to the bottom in an instant. The monarch asked for the details and asked a civil official to draw a portrait of the hawker according to Zhang Feng's description. No one had seen this person before. To find the young princess was tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. The monarch was furious, and the entire throne room was shrouded in a layer of murderous aura. "Find the young princess for me, even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. I want her alive." Zhang Feng reported, there was another child who was also taken away. He was about the same age as the young princess and wore the same academy uniform. This characteristic was too obvious. In the entire Lingbo Academy, there was only one child who was the same age as the young princess, little Jing Kong. State Preceptor Palace. Xiao Hang had just returned from the library and walked to the door when he saw his eldest disciple, Yi Qing, leading 20 disciples and men of sacrifice hurriedly passing by. Xiao Hang asked, "Yi Qing, where are you going?" Yi Qing stopped in his tracks and bowed to Xiao Hang with cupped hands. "Your Highness Chong's son, the young princess and her classmate have been captured. Our State Preceptor Hall also plans to go out and look for them." Xiao Heng's eyes slightly paused. "Which classmate of the young princess?" Yi Qing said, "The little boy who came yesterday and sang in the Qilin Hall for a long time. He seems to be called Jing Kong." Jing Kong was taken away? In the side room, Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Hang and asked. Xiao Hang nodded. The hawker originally wanted to catch the young princess, but Jing Kong rushed over and bit him. The hawker couldn't get rid of him, so he took him away. Shangguan Yen had fallen asleep. The room was very quiet. Gu Jiao was very calm. "I see," she said. She came to the bedside, looked at the infusion bottle, stretched out her hand, pulled out the infusion tube, and calmly injected heparin sodium into the infusion needle. After doing this, she carefully dealt with the medical supplies. The whole process was orderly. Xiao Hang looked distressed. The imperial guards who escorted the young princess are Han Ye's men. Han Ye won't kidnap the young princess. It's not good for him. Either someone wants to retaliate against the king, or someone wants to deal with the Han family. The young princess was the king's sweetheart, so they didn't dare to do anything to her. Jing Kong was hard to say. He was just a child from another country. If necessary, in order to avoid trouble, they may kill him. In fact, the situation of the young princess was not necessarily foolproof. An accident was often full of variables, and any variable may lead to unpredictable consequences. Gu Jiao put on the armor on her arm. Then Gu Jiao came to the weapons room of the Qilin Hall, pointed to the red tasseled silver spear on the wall, and said calmly, "Lend it to me." The disciple who was wiping the weapon looked at her in a daze. She was very calm, like the surface of a lake without any ripples. However, for some reason, the disciple felt a chill in his heart, as if a terrible storm was brewing under this calm lake. When the disciple came back to his senses, Gu Jiao had already taken the red tasseled silver spear out. Gu Jiao also borrowed a horse from the State Preceptor Hall. She rode on the horse, and the sun was blazing above her head. She raised her head, put her index finger and thumb in her mouth, and whistled towards the vast sky. Not far away, there was the sound of an overlord eagle's cry. A fierce gerfalcon flapped its wings and flew over, circling above Gu Jiao's head. Gu Jiao held the red tasseled spear in one hand and the reins in the other. Her eyes were sharp. "Let's go." The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89648383841. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, M. ZHHBQG. Come. Chapter 738. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find on the internet. The disappearance of the young princess was no small matter. Even the Grand Master Hall was involved, let alone the aristocratic families. The aristocratic families all sent out their elite forces to try to find the young princess. The Han family was especially eager to find the young princess. In the parlor, Grandfather Han said with a grave expression, "Zhong Feng and the others have failed in their duties. If we don't redeem ourselves and find the young princess, the emperor will blame us and the Han clan will be in trouble." The Han family had already lost a mind because of the assassination of the emperor's grandson. They couldn't be punished by the king again. Han Lei had just returned from the palace. Other than him and Master Han, his younger brother, Third Master Han, was also in the room. Third Master Han was a slacker. He had spent the whole night in the concubine's room, so he was listless now. Han Lei was angry when he saw him. In terms of ability, 10 of his third brothers were not as good as his second brother. According to his original plan, he should have let his third brother take the blame for Han Yi. At least the Han family would only lose an idiot. However, because he was the eldest son of the old madam, he could enjoy the fruits of others' labor even if he didn't work hard or contribute to the family. Han Lei glared at his younger brother. It took him a lot of effort to resist the urge to slap him to death. "Father." Han Lei suppressed his anger and said to Master Han, "There is something wrong with this." Master Han put his hands on the handle of his cane. His eyes were sharp like a hawk's. "Don't worry about it. Find the young princess first. Then the Han family will be saved." Han Lei cupped his hands. "Yes, father. I will bring people to find her." Master Han said meaningfully, "Remember, it must be the Han family who finds the young princess." Han Lei understood. "I understand. And you?" Great-grandfather Han looked at Third Master Han with a dark expression. Third Master Han was shocked by his father's scolding. He stood up and wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth. I will go too." Grandpa Han was exasperated and said, "What are you going to do? You better stay at home obediently. You are not allowed to step out of the yard for the next few days." Third Master Han was about to cry. Why did he have to imprison him? Han Lei called Chu Nan over and asked him to pick out the best Black Wind cavalry from the army camp. He was going to bring the Han family's cavalry to personally search for the person. "Father." Just as Han Lei was about to leave, Han Yi spurred his horse over. Han Lei looked at Han Ye's pale face and then looked at his bandaged feet. He frowned. "You haven't recovered yet. Why did you come out?" Han Yi endured the immense pain. His face was pale, but his eyes were filled with determination. "Father, let me go find him too." "Nonsense. How are you going to find him like this? Didn't the doctor tell you to focus on recuperating? If someone were to find out that your tendons are broken and your legs are crippled, do you think you would still be able to keep your current position?" Han Lei's words were like a sharp knife stabbing into Han Ye's heart. Gu Chongqing's sword strike had killed him, almost ending his martial arts career. The king would not put a cripple in an important position. In order not to be discovered by the monarch, he couldn't even go to the Imperial Preceptor Hall for treatment. He refused to accept the fact that he had become a cripple. He could still mount a horse. He could hold a gun. He could hold a sword. Han Lei understood that his son, who had always been proud and arrogant, could not accept this heavy blow. He softened his tone and said, "Don't worry and stay in the residence. I will definitely find a way to cure you." "Really?" Han Ye's tone was a little careless. Han Lei was anxious to make his son believe him. He said seriously, "Rumor has it that Shen Yuan Li's tendons were broken by the people of Jin, but wasn't he still cured by a divine doctor?" Han Ye's eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. "Was it the Imperial Preceptor?" Han Lei shook his head. "No, The Imperial Preceptor Hall had not been built at that time. I don't know who the divine doctor was, but if the rumor is true, I will definitely find him for you. I will let him cure you at all costs. Even if my Han family has to support him forever, I will accept it. This was the first time Han Yi felt his father's unreserved concern for him from his eyes. In the past, only his second uncle would be like this. Han Yi whispered, "It's been decades. Who knows if that person is still around?" Han Lei held his shoulders. "Yeah, don't say such discouraging words. You are the heir of the Han family. You can't give up on yourself." Han Yi said, "I know I was wrong, father." Han Lei smiled with relief. "Quickly go back and recuperate. I will take care of the matters outside." Han Yi was carried back to his courtyard by the servants. He lay on the rattan chair at the door and looked at the courtyard from afar. Qi Xian patted the mosquitoes on his body and said to Han Yi, "Okay, don't worry. I will help you find him." Han Yi said, "Thank you, master." Qi Xian put his hands behind his back and sighed. "We are master and disciple. I don't want to see anything happen to your family." Han Yi pondered for a moment and suddenly called out, "Master." Qi Xian asked, "What's the matter?" Han Yi said in a daze, "I heard that Xiao Lu Lang is the young princess's teacher. Do you think he will let go of this opportunity?" Qi Xian raised his eyebrows. "You want me to find the young princess before he does?" Han Yi looked down and pinched a small mosquito that fell on his leg. "I hope that if you meet him, you will kill him for me." Qi Xian smiled and nonchalantly said, "Okay." In the purple bamboo forest of the Imperial Preceptor Hall, Yu-He carried the iced food box to the small bamboo house in the forest. It was quiet in the central room. A disciple sitting at the door said, "Imperial Preceptor, Yu-He has brought the sweet soup to relieve the summer heat." The Imperial Preceptor said tiredly, "Let him in." "Yes." The disciple lifted the bamboo curtain of the central room and nodded to Yu-He. Yu-He stepped in and left his shoes on the steps. He walked slowly on the wooden floor in clean white footwear. "Master." Yu-He bowed. In the Imperial Preceptor Hall, only the personal disciples of the Imperial Preceptor were qualified to call him Master. The other disciples all called him Imperial Preceptor. Yu-He looked at the turtle shell on the table and asked carefully, "Master, are you divining? Why is the divination like this?" As a personal disciple, Yu-He had learned some knowledge. The divination on the table showed that the divination had failed. But it was strange, wasn't it? Was there anything in the world that his master couldn't divine? The Imperial Preceptor said regretfully, "I can't divine her divination. No matter how many times I try, I can't divine it." Her? Was his master talking about the young commandery princess? Yes, only the young commandery princess had an accident. At this critical moment, no one else was worthy of his master's divination except for the young commandery princess. Yu-He said with a smile, "It must be because the weather is too hot. Master, do you want to rest for a while?" The Imperial Preceptor sighed, "It has nothing to do with the weather. I have been divining for many years." "Master, you are exaggerating. The young commandery princess is only 4 years old." Yu-He sat down opposite the Imperial Preceptor and opened the lid of the food box. He scooped a bowl of iced mung bean soup and presented it with both hands. "Master, here you go." The Imperial Preceptor took a sip and didn't say anything else. In a room in a courtyard, a man in black and a hawker who had treated his wound stood respectfully in the middle of the room. In front of them was a man in a grey cloak. The weather was hot and humid. The man put down the hood of his cloak and took off the mask on his face. He glanced at the two and asked, "Is it done?" The hawker said, "We caught the man." The man in black added, "But we caught an extra one." The hawker was speechless. "Would you die if you kept quiet?" "What do you mean by an extra one?" the man asked with a frown. The hawker pointed to his injured thigh and said, "He is the young commandery princess's classmate. He followed me here and bit my thigh. I couldn't get rid of him. But don't worry, we have got the information from the young commandery princess. He is a poor boy. He doesn't even have parents at home. He only has an elder sister who is studying at the academy next door. Even if he dies outside, no one can care." The man snorted. "That better be the case." The man in black hesitated for a moment and said, "Master, the young commandery princess." "Can't you give her anything to eat? It's already afternoon. She has been hungry for a long time." The man said lightly, "Let her suffer a little. That way, the king will be more distressed and angry." The man in black muttered, "She won't die from hunger, right?" The man said coldly, "She won't die from hunger for a day or two. Remember to give her some water at night." The man in black said, "Yes." In the woodshed, 2 little kids were squatting in the corner. "Jing Kong, I'm hungry," the young commandery princess said with tears in her eyes. Little Jing Kong had been awake for a while. He listened carefully to the sounds outside and asked her in a low voice, "Are you still hungry?" "Yes." The young commandery princess nodded sadly. "The candy can't fill my stomach." Little Jing Kong learned from his grandaunt and had the habit of hiding snacks. He hid a few pieces of osmanthus candy and a small bag of candied fruits in his purse. When the young commandery princess said that she was hungry, he had already given her more than half of it. There were only 3 pieces of candy and 2 candied fruits left. Little Jing Kong took another piece of candy and a candied fruit and gave them to her. "I can't give you any more. We don't know when we can go home. I'll leave the rest for you to eat tonight." "Yes." The young commandery princess nodded obediently. She grabbed the candied fruit with one hand and the osmanthus candy with the other. "Why don't you eat?" she asked. Little Jing Kong patted his little belly. "I have a lot of meat. It's okay if I don't eat for a meal." The young commandery princess thought for a while and handed the bigger piece of osmanthus candy to him. "You eat this." She couldn't keep eating all the time. Little Jing Kong didn't eat anything. "This bit of candy is not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth." Little Jing Kong, who used to rely on the little monks to eat every meal, had this thought. "You eat it." Little Jing Kong stuffed the candy into her mouth. "Oh." The young commandery princess's mouth was stuffed. "Oh, the osmanthus candy is so delicious." Little Jing Kong had good hearing. He could hear that there was no one in the yard. He looked at the young commandery princess. "Light Shui, let's escape, shall we?" The young commandery princess, who had just stuffed the candied fruit into her mouth, puffed up her cheeks and looked at him blankly like a little fat squirrel. "How?" Little Jing Kong came to the door. The door of the woodshed opened on both sides. There was a bronze lock on the outside, and there was a narrow gap between the door and the door. Little Jing Kong was a child. His frame was very small, and his meat could be squeezed. His little hand grabbed something and slid out of the gap between the door and the door. Then, he heard the door lock click twice, and the bronze lock was pried open. The young commandery princess was starry-eyed. "Wow! Jing Kong, you're amazing." Jing Kong also thought that he was amazing. "I learned it from Brother Chung Feng," he said. "Who's Brother Chung Feng?" the young commandery princess asked. "My current sister," little Jing Kong said. "A brother. I'll bring you to meet him someday." "Okay. The young commandery princess was so shocked by little Jing Kong's amazing skills that she forgot that they were doing a very dangerous thing. Little Jing Kong opened the door of the woodshed, took the young commandery princess to the yard, and found a suitable place to climb over the wall. He said to the young commandery princess, "There's a tree here. Let's climb up the tree first, then we can climb over the wall." The young commandery princess lowered her head, touched her little fingers, and said in a very low voice, "But I don't know how to climb trees." Little Jing Kong thought for a while, ran back to the woodshed, and came out with a rope. "Grab the rope, I'll pull you up." The young commandery princess, "I can't grab it." Little Jing Kong, "Okay, then I'll have to tie you up first." Little Jing Kong tied one end of the rope to the young commandery princess's waist, and the other end to his own waist. Then, he climbed up the tree, jumped over the wall, and pulled the young commandery princess up. Ordinary 5-year-old children were not as strong as him. He practiced his basic skills every day, which built a very solid foundation. He also practiced the boxing skills that little chick monkey taught him, which greatly improved his physical fitness. "I'll put you down now." Little Jing Kong held the reins tightly, and put the young commandery princess on the other side of the wall little by little. The man in black and the peddler came out of the main house, and they both raised their hands and pulled their lapels. It was too hot. They were sweating profusely. The peddler said, "Hurry up and check on the young commandery princess. It's so stuffy in the woodshed. I don't want her to faint from the heat." The two of them went to the woodshed together. However, they were surprised to find that the lock had been pried open, and the two little kids in the house were gone. The man in black suddenly changed his expression. "Who let them go?" The peddler frowned. "Let them go? This yard is full of our people. You should be asking who rescued them." "Damn it!" The man in black gritted his teeth. Suddenly his ears moved, and he looked up at the wall. "Who's there?" The peddler jumped up the wall, looked around, and found a rope in the grass not far away. It was the rope in the woodshed. The man in black jumped over the wall and came to the peddler's side. "Did you find anything?" The peddler looked at the large field of sorghum that was taller than a person, and finally found a child's footprint in a very hidden muddy puddle. Judging from the direction of the footprints, they were heading to the sorghum field. The peddler said coldly, "Go after them." The peddler and the man in black chased after them to the sorghum field. "Jing Kong, why did you run to the sorghum field just now? Why did you step on my shoes in the puddle?" "It's a camouflage, also known as the art of confusing the enemy. We made them think that we went that way, but in fact, we went this way." The two little kids sneaked into the forest. The Jiao Jiao would definitely come to find him. Before that, he just needed to find a place to hide. The man in black and the peddler searched the whole sorghum field, and then they realized that they had been fooled. There was nothing in the sorghum field. There was no trace of anyone, and there were no traces of anyone rushing through it. In addition, the peddler also realized an even more annoying problem: no one came to save them, they ran away by themselves. The man in black asked, "Why do you say that?" The peddler snorted, "If someone really found that courtyard, do you think that the government wouldn't come to search it after so long?" The man in black suddenly understood. The peddler's eyes were full of murderous intent. "It must be that brat. When I catch him, I'll kill him." The two men chased into the forest. The forest was full of towering trees, and the branches and leaves blocked the sun. Even the temperature was much cooler than outside. The man in black said as he walked, "Actually, we don't have to find the young princess, we can let the other aristocratic families find her. After all, our goal is not to make a contribution in this matter." The peddler said, "We don't have to make a contribution, but we have to make sure that the Han family doesn't get it either. If they find the young princess and make a contribution to atone for their crime, then what's the point of doing all this?" The man in black said thoughtfully, "That's true." The peddler laughed, "At least we can't let the Han family take advantage of us. It's best if we take the credit ourselves." As they spoke, the two men walked further and further away. On a 100-year-old parasol tree, a middle-aged man in his early 40s flew down from the sky with a guard. The middle-aged man looked at a big tree opposite him. "Master Yang, isn't it hot up there? Why are you still hiding?" The branches were quiet for a moment, and then a man in his 50s in a navy blue brocade was brought back to the ground by two guards. He greeted the middle-aged man indifferently, "Master Dong." The middle-aged man called Master Dong smiled and looked in all directions. "Everyone, come out. There are many mosquitoes in this forest. It's not worthwhile to hide behind the trees and get bitten." As soon as he finished speaking, 3 more men came out from the trees or from behind the trees with their guards. Master Dong smiled and glanced at the 3 of them one by one: Lord Chen, Lord Du, Brother Feng, Feng. The first 3 were about the same age as Master Dong, and they were all in their prime. Only Master Feng was only 23 years old this year, and he was the youngest master among the top 10 families. It was not that he was very capable, but that the elders of the Feng family were all gone, and only he and his brother were left to support the unstable family. Master Dong smiled amiably and said, It seems that everyone has been watching them since they entered the forest, so I'm sure you all heard what they said just now. I might as well tell you the truth. The man dressed as a peddler is a master invited by the Mu family from the underground martial arts arena a few years ago. He's good at lightness skill. Lord Chen said, so this was done by the Mu family, and the Mu family wants to deal with the Han family? Master Dong smiled and said, it seems so. Lord Du asked, why did the Mu family do this? Master Dong smiled and said, as soon as something happened to Consort Wan, the Mu family attacked the Han family. Don't you think there's any connection? Lord Feng's temper rose. Just say that Consort Wan was framed by Imperial Consort Han. Master Dong's smile did not change. You said that, not me. You, Lord Feng choked. Among the top 10 family heads, Master Dong was famous for being a smiling fox. It was easy to fall into his trap by talking to him. Master Dong smiled and said, except for the Mu, Wang, Su, and Han families, all the other families are here. I have a suggestion, but I don't know if you want to hear it. Lord Feng hated this the most. He could hold back several farts in one sentence, so he said, if you have something to say, say it. If you have something to say, say it. Master Dong's eyes swept over everyone. The Mu family, Wang family, and Su family are in-laws. If something happens to the Mu family, it will be difficult for these two families to get away with it. Even if the emperor does not take his anger out on them, they will not get any benefits. Lord Feng was annoyed. What are you trying to say? Master Dong put his hands behind his back and said with a smile, the Mu family has committed a capital crime by kidnapping the young princess, and the Han family is guilty of dereliction of duty for failing to protect the young princess. However, this alone is not enough to overturn these two families. But what if something happens to the young princess? Can these two families survive? Lord Du frowned. You mean, the Dong family's master's smile gradually turned sinister. What I mean is, instead of the 6 families fighting for the credit of finding the young commandery princess, it's better to eliminate the Mu family and the Han family, and directly divide their forces. This way, it won't hurt the harmony, and everyone can take advantage of it. Master Yang, who was the oldest at the scene, laughed. Smiling fox, you are really ruthless. Master Dong glanced at him and said, the Han and Mu families are fat meat. Don't you want to take a bite? The Black Wind Cavalry and the supply camp. We also contributed back then, but why can't we get a share of the Shenyuan family's military power? The forest suddenly fell into silence. Yes, they had paid a great price to defeat the Shenyuan family, but in the end, they didn't get a share of the military power. It was fine that the Nangong family got the lion's share, as they were originally military generals, but why did the Mu family, who had been educated for generations, get a share of the supply camp? They couldn't accept it. The people in the forest started to get restless. Let's go. The youngest family leader, Feng Wuxiu, turned around and left without interest. Master Dong narrowed his eyes and looked at his handsome back. He sneered and asked, Feng, did you agree or not? Feng Wuxiu waved his hand. No. Master Dong threatened, then you can't just leave like this. Feng Wuxiu glanced at him. You can stop me. Try. Master Dong's guard grabbed the hilt of the sword at his waist. Suddenly, a young Taoist priest in a blue robe descended from the sky like an unshakable god and stood in front of Feng Wuxiu. Everyone was shocked. Master Yang said in disbelief, Taoist priest Qing Feng. Feng Wuxiu was young, but his aura was not weak at all. I don't care what you want to do, and I won't report you, but the Feng family will take this credit. All the masters on the scene are no match for Qing Feng even if they join hands. Patriarch Dong smiled. He said, I was just joking. Why did you take it so seriously? All right, let's see who can save the young commandery princess first. They were so close. That despicable Feng Wuxiu had messed up the situation. Brother, let's go, Feng Wuxiu said to Taoist priest Qing Feng. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_82668229775. HTML Genius memorized the website address www.zhbqg.com. Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website zhbqg.com. Chapter 739. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. The sky gradually darkened. The two little kids were hiding in a shady cave. The cave was not deep and was just big enough for the two little kids to hide in. The young princess had already eaten the last preserved fruit and the second last piece of osmanthus candy. The two little kids' clothes were torn and their faces were dirty. They didn't look like noble students at all. If he were to walk on the streets, he was afraid that people would think that he was a refugee from somewhere. The two little kids sat with their backs against the wall. Little Jing Kong sat outside and the young princess was blocked by his body. "Are you still hungry?" Little Jing Kong asked her. The young princess nodded, then quickly shook her head. She swallowed her saliva and said, "I'm not hungry." As soon as she finished speaking, her stomach growled. She covered her small belly and said softly, "I didn't ask it to growl. It growled by itself." The young princess had been kidnapped, locked in a small dark room, escaped with her friends, and hid in this dark and damp cave. She was no longer the young princess she was in the morning. She was a young princess who could endure hunger. Little Jing Kong took out the last piece of candy, broke half of it and gave it to her. He carefully put the other half back into his pocket. "There are fruits on the tree over there. I'll go and pick some." Little Jing Kong looked at the candy in the young princess' hand as he said, "I'll be back when you finish this piece of candy." "Okay." The young princess nodded obediently and held his little hand. "You must come back." "I will." Little Jing Kong sneaked out to pick the fruits. With his excellent tree climbing skills, he quickly climbed up the tree. The fruits were more plump and bright than when he looked from afar. It was too slow to pick them one by one. He hugged the branch and shook it violently. The fruits fell to the ground. He climbed down and used the hem of his clothes to pick up the fruits. He panted and ran back. However, when he ran back to the cave, he found that the young princess was gone. He frowned. Right at this moment, the young commandery princess screamed from the east, "Let me go!" "Over there." Little Jing Kong decisively threw away the fruits that he had been carrying along the way and ran towards the direction of the sound. In an open space under the shade of a tree, two guards were fighting fiercely. The first person who found the young princess and carried her out of the cave was the Chen family's guard. However, the guards of the Chen family ran into the guards of the Dong family after walking for a short distance. The guards of the Dong family tried to kidnap the young commandery princess, but the guards of the Chen family would not let them succeed so easily. However, because he was carrying the young princess, his movements were restricted. After more than 10 moves, he gradually felt tired. However, he was not willing to hand over the young princess. The guard of the Dong family swept his leg over. The guard of the Chen family didn't manage to dodge in time, and was heavily tripped and fell to the ground. The young princess in his arms fell to the ground. "Ah!" The young princess screamed. The guards of the Dong family immediately rushed forward to snatch it. Who would have thought that just as his hand was about to grab the young princess, the Du family's guard would suddenly appear out of nowhere. The guards of the Du family also rushed over with their lightness skill after hearing the young princess scream. However, he was so lucky that he benefited from the fight between the Dong family and the Chen family. He had been waiting for the right moment to jump out and catch the young princess before the Dong family's guards did. The guards of the Dong family failed to catch the young princess. They slapped the ground with their palms and jumped up to stabilize themselves. The guards of the Dong family scolded angrily, "You are too evil." The guards of the Du family snorted, "It's all robbery. Don't make yourself sound so noble." The young princess was thrown around by them. She was so scared that her face turned pale. Her big eyes were filled with tears, but she stubbornly refused to cry. She was a senior. She couldn't cry. The guards of the Du family comforted her. "Don't be afraid, princess. I will escort you back to the palace." The guards of the Dong family took the opportunity to smooth things over. "Young princess, don't listen to him. He is a bad guy." The guards of the Du family looked at him disdainfully and said, "How can you be a good guy?" The guards of the Chen family who were swept to the ground got up. The guards of the Dong family saw him rushing to the guards of the Du family, and they were not willing to be outdone. The original fight between the two of them became a three-way fight. In fact, if there were only 3 people fighting, it would not be too difficult. However, the young princess' voice was so loud that it attracted not only the Dong family and the Du family. Not long after, the guards of the Feng family and the Yang family also arrived at the scene and joined the fight for the young princess. The young princess was snatched by several people. Finally, the scene was too chaotic. No one knew who let go of the young princess, but she was thrown out fiercely. "Young princess." The guards of the Dong family went to pick her up. As soon as he jumped up, the guards of the Du family and the Yang family each grabbed one of his feet. "I'm going to die. I'm going to die." The young princess closed her eyes and screamed loudly. Then she fell to the ground heavily. "Huh. It doesn't hurt." Huff, huff, huff. She opened her eyes and saw little Jing Kong, who was hit by her. His eyes were rolling and his tongue was sticking out crazily. "Young princess." Woo-woo. Little Jing Kong used 3 seconds to recover his HP. Then he got up quickly, grabbed the young princess' hand, and ran away with her. The 5 people were fighting. Suddenly, the guards of the Chen family shouted, "Stop fighting. She's gone." The 4 of them turned their heads at the same time. As expected, the young princess was gone. They were so focused on the fight that they did not notice which direction the young princess ran to. Why did the young princess run away alone? Is she so bold? The guard of the Chen family was surprised. When he found the young princess, she was clearly a frightened little rabbit. The guard of the Dong family asked, "Is it done by other families?" The guard of the Du family snorted, "What's the point of saying this now? The 5 of us fought so hard here, but now we've done all the work for someone else. I'm sure none of us can take it lying down, right?" The guard of the Chen family gritted his teeth, "If I find out who did it, I'll kill him." Little Jing Kong ran with the young princess. The sky was getting dark, and the forest was full of danger. They couldn't go any further. They had to find a way to get out. Just as this thought flashed through little Jing Kong's mind, a figure descended from the sky and blocked his and the young princess's path. "It's you." Little Jing Kong recognized him. He was the peddler who took the young princess away during the day. The peddler curled his lips playfully. "Boy, you have a good memory." "Oh, what is this called?" In the words of scholars, should it be called, "You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, but find it without any effort?" Little Jing Kong looked at him vigilantly. You're not allowed to come over," the young princess said fearfully and fiercely. The peddler smiled and said, "Don't worry, princess. I don't mean to hurt you. As long as you follow me obediently, I promise I'll send you back unharmed." The young princess held little Jing Kong's hand tightly. "You're a bad guy, a stinky brat. I won't go with you." Little Jing Kong told the young princess about being a brat when they were in the cave just now. The peddler said patiently, "It's getting dark, and the wolves, tigers, and leopards in the forest are coming out. Do you want to be eaten by those wolves and tigers if you don't go with me?" I. The young princess trembled in fear. She didn't want to be eaten. Little Jing Kong pulled the young princess and ran back, but he saw the men in black on the other side. This was what it meant to be surrounded by wolves and tigers. "Don't talk nonsense. Those people will be here soon. I know you're good at martial arts, but I heard that Taoist Qing Feng from the Feng family and Qi Xian from the Han family have come out to look for the young princess. The peddler frowned. Okay, take the young princess and let's go. What about this kid? Don't care about him. Leave him here to feed the wolves. The young princess, who was so scared that tears rolled down her cheeks, opened her arms and stood in front of little Jing Kong. Don't let Jing Kong be fed to the wolves. The peddler smiled and obviously did not take the young princess's threat seriously. He swaggered towards the two little kids. Little Jing Kong suddenly grabbed something from his pocket and threw it at him. Then, little Jing Kong threw a round object at him. The peddler caught it with his fingers and laughed. It was just a fruit. He was indeed a silly kid who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Little Jing Kong had picked up a lot of fruits. He threw away the ones in his clothes, but he still had some in his pocket. He took out 7 or 8 fruits and threw them at the peddler. The peddler didn't even bother to dodge. Just when he thought the last one was also a fruit, it exploded with a bang. Fortunately, he was good at Qinggong and dodged quickly. Otherwise, he would have been injured by the explosion. The peddler landed on the branch and looked at the frighteningly stubborn child with disgust. The little guy was very calm and didn't show any signs of panic. There was an indescribable determination in his eyes. The kid wasn't afraid of him. The peddler clenched his fists. He was just a kid. Why couldn't he look him in the eye? Moreover, he seemed to sense some kind of threat from a child. This was too strange. A thought flashed through his mind. I can't let this kid live. This forest can't kill him. One day, when he grows up, he will become a terrifying existence. A strong murderous intent flashed through the peddler's eyes. He leaped into the air, stretched out his evil claws, and twisted little Jing Kong's neck mercilessly. The strength of this move was not something a 5-year-old kid could dodge. His evil claws grabbed little Jing Kong's throat. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a sharp eagle's cry came from the sky above, followed by the sound of something breaking through the air. A red tasseled spear glittering with silver light shot towards him like a bolt of lightning with irresistible force. What a fast weapon! He quickly dodged. Unfortunately, it was too late. He was sent flying by the huge force, and his entire arm was cut off by the red tassel spear. He fell heavily at the feet of the man in black, and blood splattered everywhere. The red tassel spear didn't lose its strength after cutting off his arm. It pierced deeply into the big tree behind them. The man in black broke out in a cold sweat. He looked at the other side of the forest in disbelief and saw a 15 or 16-year-old boy galloping over on a horse. The boy was thin and his eyes were sharp. He didn't look like he came from the depths of the forest, but more like he came from hell for revenge. He was a killing god, but also a demon. The boy's horse was not a good horse, but the horse seemed to feel the boy's fighting spirit and became very brave. It was strong and vigorous in the complicated forest as if it was walking on flat ground. When the horse ran past the two little ones, Gu Jiao swung her whip and rolled the two little ones up. "Close your eyes," she said. The two little kids raised their little hands and obediently covered their eyes. Gu Jiao clamped the horse's belly with her legs, held the two little kids with one hand, and used the other hand to ride the horse over the head of the man in black. The moment the horse's hooves fell, she coldly pulled out the red tassel spear from the tree. The red tassel spear that almost penetrated the tree was pulled out by her easily. She held the red tassel spear tightly, turned it over her head, and swung it backward. The man in black and the peddler who had just stood up to attack her fell to the ground together. His head rolled out of his body. The 5 gods followed the clues and came here. They were all shocked by the bloody and cruel scene. What's going on? Who did it? They were all experts who had gone through hundreds of battles, but such a miserable situation was still too rare. If it was on the battlefield, it would not be too strange. But this was just a forest in Chengdu. The guard of the Dong family recognized one of them. This peddler is the master invited by the Mu family from the underground martial arts field. Everyone was even more surprised. The guard of the Chan family checked the surrounding situation. He was the most meticulous, otherwise, he would not be the first to find the young commandery princess. He touched the hole in the tree and said, "The other party used a long spear, and there are children's footprints on the ground." The young commandery princess was taken away. The guard of the Yong family asked, "Who did it?" The guard of the Dong family said, "It's definitely not our 5 families. Although there are more than 5 of us, no one used a long spear. Everyone can agree on this point, right?" The other 4 nodded. Excluding the Dong, Yang, Chen, Feng, and Du families, there were only the Wang, Han, Mu, Su, Feng families, as well as the State Preceptor Palace and the Nangong family. The Nangong family had just lost Nangong Li and was too busy to take care of themselves, so they did not seriously participate in the search and rescue at all. It was the Mu family who had the accident. The Wang family and the Su family were one with the Mu family, so they could be ruled out as suspects. Then, there were only the Han family, the Feng family, and the State Preceptor Palace left. The State Preceptor Palace could be ruled out as suspects. With their status, they would not bother to deal with any aristocratic family. And this was not just dealing with them. This cruel method was obviously accompanied by a terrible murderous intent, as if they were here to take revenge. It was also impossible for the Feng family, because Taoist Qing Feng did not use a long spear. The guard of the Dong family frowned. Could it be the Han family? The Han family practiced spear techniques. The guard of the Chen family guessed, the Han family and the Mu family are the most hostile. They are very likely to be the culprit. The guard of the Yang family sighed, if the young commandery princess fell into Qi Xian's hands, we might not have a chance to get her back. That was Qi Xian of the Tang sect, the top 10 master in the underground martial arts field of the Yen dynasty. The guard of the Dong family sneered as cunningly as the master of the Dong family, "Why don't we join hands to kill Qi Xian first, and then we can slowly compete with each other?" Gu Jiao took the 2 little kids to a stream, and little Nine was hovering in the sky. Gu Jiao carried the 2 little kids down the horse. The 2 little kids could still hold on when there were no adults around. But now that Gu Jiao was here, all the grievances came to their minds. The young commandery princess cried, "Teacher, I'm so scared. They took me here and there, and I fell down. Boo-hoo." Gu Jiao put the red tasseled spear on the ground aside and squatted down on one knee, like a knight guarding her. She gently wiped the tears on her face and comforted her. "Don't be afraid. No one will take you away again." The young commandery princess threw herself into Gu Jiao's arms and cried loudly. Little Jing Kong tried his best to hold back his tears, but his eyes were full of tears. Gu Jiao also held him in her arms. She knelt down on one knee and held the children in each hand. She did not do such a gentle thing often, so her movements were a little stiff. But this did not stop the 2 little kids from feeling a calming power from her. It was a kind of faith. The 2 little kids were tired after crying for a while. The young commandery princess was only 4 years old, and she was a weak girl in Jiaojiao. Once she felt safe, she fell asleep in Gu Jiao's arms. Little Jing Kong lowered his head and blamed himself. "I made Jiao worry. I couldn't even beat a bad guy." Gu Jiao patted his little head and smiled. "No, you did very well. You protected your companions and yourself. You didn't make me worry. You're the bravest little boy. I'm very proud of you." Little Jing Kong felt a lump in his throat. Jiao. Suddenly, an eagle's cry came from above. Gu Jiao's eyes turned cold. Over there. There were people coming from the forest. Not just one, but a group of people. They were not the 5 guards from before, but the masters of the 5 aristocratic families who were surrounded by several guards. From left to right, they were Master Dong, Master Yang, Master Feng, Master Du, and Master Chen. Gu Jiao had seen their portraits in the library of the State Preceptor Hall. Gu Jiao gently put the sleeping commandery princess on the ground and said to little Jing Kong, "Cover your ears and don't look back." "Okay." Little Jing Kong answered obediently. He sat facing the stream and raised his hands to cover his little ears. Gu Jiao picked up the red tasseled spear and walked towards them step by step. Little Nine spread its wings and hovered above her head with high fighting spirit. It was as if it was waiting for her order, and then it would swoop down to its prey. Everyone looked at the teenager who was walking towards them with a murderous look under the moonlight and the eagle who was escorting the teenager. They had an ominous feeling in their hearts. A guard drew his sword and walked forward, shouting, "Who are you? Hand over the commandery princess if you know what's good for you, or you will die a horrible death." Before he could finish, the teenager shot him with a spear. He knelt on the ground and looked at the teenager in shock. The teenager kicked him in the chest and coldly pulled out the red-tasseled spear. Blood splattered on the teenager's face, and one of the drops hit between his eyebrows. It looked like a drop of red cinnabar. Master Dong's eyes trembled. "Shenyuan Cheng." The teenager raised his hand and casually wiped the blood off his face. He looked at the crowd with a murderous look in his eyes. "Who's next?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1068033869. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 740. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. That was a guard from the Fong family. The ones who came out to carry out this mission were not ordinary guards. They were all carefully selected elites. Being able to kill him with one shot was enough to prove this young man's ability. However, this alone was not enough to shock everyone present. The murderous aura and wolf-like nature emitted from the young man's body was faintly familiar to everyone, but only the Dong family head thought of Shenyuan Cheng. "Go!" The Dong family head and the others all gave the order. The other 5 guards drew their swords and rushed towards Gu Jiao. Everyone watched the fight between the young man and the guards intently. The young man knew that he did not have the advantage in numbers. He had to conserve his strength to the greatest extent, so every move he made hit the opponent's vital points, not giving the opponent a chance to make a comeback. "Who do you think of?" the Dong family head asked. A name flashed through everyone's mind at the same time: Shenyuan Cheng. Shenyuan Cheng went to war with his father when he was 10 years old. At the age of 12, he achieved military merits. He was the bravest young man on the battlefield, the Blood Wolf. If he met a god, he would kill a god. If he met a devil, he would kill a devil. Even if he could not kill the other party, he would ruthlessly bite off a piece of flesh from the other party. Therefore, even if they defeated Shenyuan Cheng's enemy, they were not willing to fight with Shenyuan Cheng again. The price was too high. Feng Lao San asked, "Who is this young man?" The Dong family head said with a complicated expression, "I've never seen him before. I don't know him." When the last guard fell, the battle was over. It was much faster than expected. This young man did not look like an expert, but why was every move so deadly? Feng Lao San narrowed his eyes and jumped. "I'll fight you." His weapon was a long sword, similar to the red-tasseled spear in Gu Jiao's hand. It was heavier, but not as heavy as Shenyuan Li's red-tasseled spear. He chopped down with his sword. Gu Jiao blocked with her spear with both hands. Her arms were slightly numb. Feng Huai, the Feng family patriarch's legitimate son, was the third in the family, and was known as Third Brother Feng. He was skilled in the saber and possessed boundless strength. Feng Lao San looked at Gu Jiao, who caught his saber and unexpectedly sneered, "Brat, to be able to catch my saber, your strength is not small. Let's see if you have the ability to withstand my second attack." He only used 30% of his strength in the first strike. When the second slash came down, Gu Jiao's feet sank half a foot into the ground. If he continued fighting like this, he would sooner or later run out of energy. Gu Jiao decided to turn defense into offense. When Brother Feng's third blade came, Gu Jiao didn't meet it head-on. Instead, she used her spear to jump up, and with a flip, she jumped over Brother Feng's head. The moment she landed on the ground, she pulled out the red tasseled spear from the ground. She turned around and swept it across Feng Lao San's waist, which he didn't have time to protect in time. Feng Lao San was shocked. "You?" He looked at his wound in disbelief, and then looked at Gu Jiao, who was holding the red tasseled spear and panting slightly. "Brat. You just used the Shen Yuan family's spear technique." "What?" Lord Chen was shocked. Dong family head had already seen through the trick. This brat used a normal spear technique to deal with the guards. Since Brother Feng was more difficult to deal with, she changed her spear technique. That move just now was the fourth style of the Shen Yuan 7 styles. It was a perfect move to turn defense into offense. It was not easy to use the Shen Yuan family's spear technique. First, one had to completely channel their internal energy into their dantian. Without using any internal energy, they had to rely on the body's endurance and explosive power to use it. This spear technique was created by Shen Yuan Li. To be honest, he didn't understand why Shen Yuan Li created this spear technique. Everyone in the Shen Yuan family had internal energy. Wouldn't it be better for him to create a spear technique that could also be used with internal energy? As a result, the experts of the Shen family couldn't steal it even if they wanted to. His thoughts wandered. How did this brat obtain this spear technique? How did he learn it with his amazing willpower and physique? Other than Shen Yuan Li and Shen Yuan Cheng, only the tempered body monks of the Shaolin Temple could withstand this kind of force. This brat was a Shaolin monk? No, even a monk couldn't learn it. The two techniques were contradictory. The head of the Dong family had a headache. He was suddenly very curious about this brat and wanted to know his origin. After Feng Lao San was injured, he began to use his full strength. His attacks were faster and faster, so Gu Jiao couldn't dodge. Feng Lao San kicked Gu Jiao's shoulder. Gu Jiao was forced to retreat several feet. Her feet drew a long ditch on the ground until she stabbed the red tasseled spear deep into the ground. When she stopped, she was only half a foot away from little Jing Kong. "Jiao Jiao?" Little Jing Kong felt her breath, but little Jing Kong remembered Gu Jiao's words. He couldn't turn back. Gu Jiao stared at Feng Lao San in front of her. She raised her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth and said softly, "Count the stars." "Okay." Little Jing Kong sat cross-legged on the cloak and looked at the vast starry sky. 1, 2, 3. His childish voice was the piece she wanted to protect. Gu Jiao straightened up and walked toward Feng Lao San with the red tasseled spear in her hand. Feng Lao San was confused. What was going on? After being kicked by him, she could still stand up and walk toward him. "Very well, if you want to die, then don't blame me for being rude." Feng Lao San raised his long knife and slashed toward Gu Jiao's neck. Gu Jiao, who should have been beheaded, disappeared. Feng Lao San was shocked. Gu Jiao's red tasseled spear was still on the ground, but where was she? In the next second, Gu Jiao appeared behind Feng Lao San. Feng Lao San felt a chill run down his spine and realized something. Just as he was about to turn around, Gu Jiao grabbed the hair on the back of his head. Gu Jiao grabbed him with one hand and held the dagger with the other, cutting his throat. This was not the Shen Yuan family's spear technique, but a killing move from her previous life. She had not used it for a long time, but fortunately, she remembered it. Feng Lao San fell to the ground with a dumbfounded expression. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood. Gu Jiao's violent nature was stirred up, but she did not lose control for the time being. She held the bloody dagger and looked at the remaining 4 people indifferently. There was no ruthlessness in her eyes, nor was there a trace of satisfaction or joy from defeating her opponent. She was very calm. But this was the most terrifying thing. "Brat, you just killed a big shot, okay? You just cut a bag of cabbages. Gu Jiao raised the dagger. I'm tired of fighting, all of you come at me together. On the other side, Mu Qingchen and a bodyguard also entered the forest. The bodyguard looked up and said, "Young master, look, that eagle is flying so high." Mu Qingchen raised his eyes and looked around. He had been watching that eagle for a long time, and it had been hovering in a certain direction. Mu Qingchen looked away and said, "Don't worry about that eagle. Finding the person is more important." The bodyguard replied, "Yes, young master." After walking for a while, the bodyguard said in a low voice, "It's already dark. If we can't find the young princess, I'm afraid she's going to be in trouble." Mu Qingchen frowned and did not say anything. He did not want to see this happen, but he had to admit that the longer they waited, the less likely the young princess would be to survive. They entered the forest from another direction and did not see the peddler's corpse. Therefore, they did not know that the young princess had been found and taken away. The bodyguard asked again, "Young master, why didn't you let young master Muchuan come with you?" Mu Qingchen said, "It's useless even if he comes. He was still a child." While they were talking, an eagle's cry suddenly came from the dome. The gerfalcon hovering above the forest suddenly swooped down as if it had found its prey. Then, a series of shrill screams came from the depths of the forest. "Ah," the bodyguard said vigilantly, "Young master, someone is here." Mu Qingchen looked at the map in his hand under the moonlight and said, "It's in the direction of the stream. Let's go and have a look." Their horses could not go any further because the road was too bad. Riding a horse was not as fast as lightness skill. At this moment, they were both walking. They rushed over with lightness skill. There was a scuffle going on by the stream. The masters and pillars of the aristocratic families present were all martial artists. Otherwise, how could they enter the forest in person? Only Master Yang was watching the battle alone. He was the oldest person present, more than 50 years old. He even relied on the bodyguard to climb up and down the tree. Master Dong caught Gu Jiao's spear. He turned his head and gritted his teeth. "That's enough, old Yang. Stop pretending. If you continue to pretend to be weak, none of us will be able to leave." Among these people, old Yang, who pretended to be weak, was the best at martial arts. Master Dong, Master Chen, and Master Du could only fight to a draw with Gu Jiao when they joined forces. Gu Jiao was too difficult to deal with. This was out of everyone's expectations. However, old Yang had not watched the battle for so long for nothing. He had been observing Gu Jiao's martial arts, trying to find Gu Jiao's flaws. This young man did have flaws, but those 3 flaws were even more. No wonder he was beaten so badly. He jumped out and said, "Okay, I'll help you." After Master Yang joined the battle, Gu Jiao obviously felt the pressure. This little old man, who had no sense of presence, was a real master. While they were fighting, several bodyguards came out from the other side of the forest. They were very smart. They did not participate in the battle between the masters. Instead, they went straight to the stream to catch little Jing Kong and the young commandery princess. The main reason was that it was dark. Their clothes were the same, their hair was the same, and their faces were dirty. They could not tell who was the young commandery princess, so they had to catch both of them. Gu Jiao shouted, "Little Nine!" Little Nine swooped down and pecked the eyes of the bodyguard who was leading the battle. The scream that Mu Qingchen and the bodyguards heard came from his mouth. At this moment, Little Nine was no longer an ordinary gerfalcon. It was Gu Jiao's war eagle. Little Nine had also started its own battle. One of the bodyguards pretended to be injured and fell into the stream, but in fact, he was eyeing the 2 little people by the stream. Little Jing Kong looked at the bodyguard who was crawling towards him. Well, Jiao Jiao only said that he was not allowed to look back, but he did not say that he was not allowed to move. The bodyguard rushed towards little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong jumped up and stretched out his little iron hand. Monkey steals peach. The bodyguard knelt on the ground and was in so much pain. Mu Qingchen, who had rushed to the scene and witnessed this scene, tightened his legs and took a deep breath. Gu Jiao was not any better. She staggered and almost fell. Monkey steals peach? Where did he learn such dirty martial arts? Don't tell her that it was taught by that little chicken monkey. Her innocent little Jing Kong was led astray just like that. When she returned to Zhao country, she would beat him up. Beat him up. Beat him up. Gu Jiao misunderstood. This move was not taught by Marquis Xianping, but by the strongest little bad friend, Su Tsong, who was the head of the 3 scumbags in the Imperial College. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that cannot be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/89642899324. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 741. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. The battle between Gu Jiao and Dong Family Head and the others was very fierce. With the addition of Yang Family Head, the other side's fighting strength had indeed increased a lot, but Gu Jiao was definitely a tough bone. She fought as if she didn't care about her life, but Dong Family Head and the others couldn't do the same. On one hand, they didn't want to be injured, but on the other hand, they wanted to easily kill Gu Jiao. As a result, the more they fought, the more chaotic they became. In the end, except for Yang Family Head, the other 3 were all injured. Dong Family Head was an old fox. He always shouted the fiercest and hid the furthest, letting his companions take the damage, so his injuries were the lightest. Chen Family Head's injuries were the most serious. His right leg and left abdomen were bleeding non-stop, and he fell unconscious on the ground. Gu Jiao's physical strength was also very exhausted. If the 2 sides continued to fight, it would only be a situation where both sides were injured, and because of that surnamed Yang, Gu Jiao glanced at Yang Family Head. This person was too unfathomable. The book pavilion had the least information about him. If she hadn't fought with him today, who would have thought that he was a hidden master? Dong Family Head said to Yang Family Head, "His physical strength is almost exhausted. Old Yang, old Du, and I will hold him back. You look for an opportunity and kill him in one move." Yang Family Head looked at Gu Jiao with a malicious gaze. Okay. Dong Family Head and Du Darren exchanged glances and tacitly came to Gu Jiao's 2 sides, launching a pincer attack on Gu Jiao. Yang Family Head looked at the battle without blinking, waiting for Gu Jiao to show a flaw. When Dong Family Head restrained Gu Jiao's lower body, and Du Darren blocked Gu Jiao's red tasseled spear, Yang Family Head narrowed his eyes. The youth's physical strength decreased, and his speed slowed down. This speed was nothing to an ordinary master, but in front of his realm, it was a great flaw. Now is the time. Patriarch Yang raised his hand and sent an iron palm towards Gu Jiao's back. Almost at the same time, a masked man in white appeared in a flash, and stood in front of Gu Jiao and the others. His palm met the Yang family's patriarch's attack. When the time was up, Dong Family Head and Du Darren's restraint reached its limit. Gu Jiao forced the 2 of them back with a single spear strike. She looked back. The white-robed man leaped up and flew towards her. He grabbed her slender waist and brought her up into the air. "It's me," he whispered. Gu Jiao looked towards the stream, but she didn't see little Jing Kong and little Commandery Princess. He said, "Up ahead." Gu Jiao did not resist anymore. Just when Mu Qingchen thought that Gu Jiao was going to be taken away by him, Gu Jiao suddenly turned around and threw a dagger at him. Are you all okay? Be careful. Patriarch Dong shouted. The dagger was aimed at Patriarch Yang. Patriarch Yang dodged sideways, but the angle Gu Jiao chose was very tricky. Even if he dodged, the one behind him could not. Patriarch Du was stabbed by the dagger, and his whole body was sent flying by the terrible force. He hit the big tree behind him and fell heavily to the ground. Patriarch Dong hurried over and held his shoulder. Old Du. Gu Jiao's action was beyond everyone's expectation. Like Mu Qingchen, they thought that Gu Jiao had left, but they did not expect her to do such a thing. What kind of stubbornness was this? There were 11 of them when they came, and 6 of them were guards. Now, more than half of them were dead. Feng Laosan was dead. Old Du and Old Chen were not sure if they were still alive. Patriarch Dong was also slightly injured. Patriarch Dong said, Old Yang, you're so powerful. You're fine. Fine. Patriarch Yang looked in the direction where the young man and the masked man in white went. He silently clenched his right hand, and a drop of blood slipped from his sleeve. Mu Qingchen took Gu Jiao to the place where they agreed to meet with the guards. Gu Jiao saw the horse tied under the tree. A round little head poked out from behind the big tree. Jiao Jiao? The vigilance in Gu Jiao's eyes completely disappeared. Little Jing Kong trotted over. Gu Jiao took his little hand. Are you scared? No. Little Jing Kong shook his head, looked at Mu Qingchen, and said, It's Brother Qingchen. Little Jing Kong thought that Gu Jiao could not recognize Mu Qingchen, who was masked. Yes, I know. Gu Jiao touched his little head and said to Mu Qingchen, Thank you. Mu Qingchen thought that Gu Jiao was referring to him saving her, so he said calmly, You're welcome. The guards came out from behind the big tree with the sleeping little princess in their arms. Just now, Mu Qingchen asked the guards to take little Jing Kong away, but he was almost attacked by little Jing Kong. Mu Qingchen had no choice but to show up. Only when little Jing Kong saw that it was him did he let down his guard. Gu Jiao sat down against the big tree. Little Jing Kong walked over and nestled in her arms. Mu Qingchen carried the sleeping little princess over, paused for a moment, and sat down on the other side of little Jing Kong. He looked at the two of them strangely, and said, You haven't seen each other many times. Why are you so close? Little Jing Kong could pretend that it was the first time he and Gu Jiao met each other in the boxing field. But in this dangerous forest, he could not hide his dependence on Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said calmly, Because I'm born with affinity? Mu Qingchen was speechless. Mu Qingchen thought that little princess only met once and recognized Gu Jiao as her teacher. It could only be attributed to Gu Jiao's affinity with children. Gu Jiao leaned against the big tree with little Jing Kong in her arms, and asked, Are you hungry? Little Jing Kong hesitated for a moment, and nodded honestly, I'm hungry. Gu Jiao asked, How long have you been hungry? Little Jing Kong thought for a moment, and said, 1 day. Gu Jiao never let Jing Kong go hungry, and neither did Xiao Hung. Gu Jiao did not bring any food with her, but there were a few glucose bars in the first aid kit. Gu Jiao opened the small box, took out a piece, and handed it to him. Little Jing Kong did not eat it, but fed it to Gu Jiao first. Lu Lang, eat it. I'm not hungry, Gu Jiao said. He told Light Shui the same thing, but he was actually very hungry, so Jiao Jiao must be hungry too. Little Jing Kong insisted on feeding Gu Jiao first. After Gu Jiao ate a piece, he happily took a piece of candy and put it into his mouth. Mu Qingchen frowned inexplicably. Why didn't he ask Brother Qingchen to eat it too? No way. There was only so little candy. He only ate 1 piece, and the rest must be given to Jiao Jiao. Go and pick some fruits. Mu Qingchen ordered the guard. Yes. The guard went to pick some fruits nearby. Mu Qingchen said to Gu Jiao distantly, This place is very secluded, and no one will come here for the time being. We'll leave after you recover some strength. Gu Jiao did not care much about his deliberate alienation. Okay. Mu Qingchen frowned. Little Nine fluttered its wings and landed on the branch above Gu Jiao's head. Mu Qingchen looked up at little Nine, paused, and asked, "This eagle is yours?" Gu Jiao said, "Sort of." What did she mean by sort of? Forget it, it was unnecessary to ask about this with their current relationship. Mu Qingchen was not surprised that Gu Jiao came out to look for someone. Gu Jiao was the little princess's teacher, and it was reasonable for her to help when the little princess was missing. But he didn't understand how he managed to get into a fight with those people. Mu Qingchen took off the veil on his face and told Gu Jiao the doubts in his heart. Little Jing Kong was lying comfortably in Gu Jiao's arms with a candy in his mouth, enjoying Gu Jiao's embrace and breath. He felt so happy at this moment that he even swayed his little feet and hummed a little tune. Gu Jiao looked at him with amusement. Mu Qingchen thought that Gu Jiao did not hear him, so he was going to ask again. Gu Jiao said, "They want to take the little princess away, and I don't want to hand her over." Mu Qingchen frowned. "You," Gu Jiao said lightly. "Yes, I want to take the credit." "Who doesn't want such a big credit?" Mu Qingchen was angry when he heard this. "You are really this kind of person." There was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air. Mu Qingchen looked away angrily. He did not know why he was angry, but he felt like there was a ball of fire in his heart. "It's not like that." Little Jing Kong raised his little head from Gu Jiao's arms and said seriously, "They are bad people. They all want to take the light shui, and no one wants to give in. They even caused the light shui to fall. They don't care if the light shui hurts or not, they just want to take her away." Mu Qingchen's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Gu Jiao and opened his mouth. "You, humph." Gu Jiao looked away. Mu Qingchen was speechless. Gu Jiao was amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. She did not care if people misunderstood her, and she never defended herself. However, little Jing Kong cared. Jiao Jiao was the best Jiao Jiao in the world. He did not want anyone to misunderstand her. Little Jing Kong said to Mu Qingchen, "Brother Qingchen, they started it. They wanted to hurt Lu Lang, and they also wanted to take the light shui and me. If they took us away, they would not give us anything to eat." Mu Qingchen was here to look for the young princess with sincerity. Judging others by their own standards, he assumed that the others were the same as him. However, after listening to little Jing Kong's description, it was clear that this was not the case. The one who wanted to take the credit was not Xiao Lu Lang, but the aristocratic families. However, couldn't this brat explain it to him nicely? Would he rather be misunderstood than to explain himself? Was he so insignificant in his heart? He did not care about his misunderstanding at all, did he? Mu Qingchen's face was frighteningly dark. Little Jing Kong scratched his little head with both hands. Brother Qingchen seemed to be angrier because he did not explain himself clearly. The guard came back with a pile of fruits. "I've tasted it. It's not poisonous. It's sweet and sour, and it's quite delicious." Gu Jiao took a big and red fruit, wiped it with a handkerchief, and handed it to little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong sat up straight in Gu Jiao's arms, held the big fruit with both hands, and took a bite. Little Jing Kong was so sour that he almost made an emoji. Gu Jiao, "Oh, I forgot that Jing Kong just ate candy." Little Jing Kong moved his little butt and continued to eat the sour fruit. He took a bite and looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao looked at him curiously. "You're not sour anymore?" Little Jing Kong spread his hands and tilted his head. He turned into a romantic prince in a second. "Because you're my candy." Gu Jiao, Mu Qingchen. After eating 7 or 8 fruits, little Jing Kong burped and fell asleep in Gu Jiao's arms. The night was quiet, and the night wind was blowing. Gu Jiao ate another piece of glucose and waited for her strength to recover. Mu Qingchen could not help but ask, "Do you know who those guys are?" Gu Jiao, "Yes, I do." Mu Qingchen was slightly surprised. "You know?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes, I saw their portraits in the library of the State Preceptor Palace." Mu Qingchen was stunned for a moment before he remembered this. He said, "I heard that His Majesty summoned you to treat the former crown princess." How's the treatment going? Gu Jiao. Fortunately, the operation was successful. She's awake now. Mu Qingchen sighed. You're really amazing. Gu Jiao said calmly, it's just an operation. I'm talking about what happened just now. Mu Qingchen raised his hand and waved away the mosquitoes biting the young princess. Since you know who they are, how dare you treat them so cruelly? Aren't you afraid of their revenge? Gu Jiao. Is it useful to be afraid? Mu Qingchen choked. Yes, it was useless to be afraid. However, ordinary people would not have such courage. Even if they knew that it was useless to be afraid, they still could not do anything. This was normal. Mu Qingchen suddenly felt that he had underestimated his classmates' courage and boldness. Even as the legitimate son of the Su family, he could not openly challenge the 5 great aristocratic families. Otherwise, he would not have covered his face just now. Gu Jiao stood up with little Jing Kong in her arms after she recovered some strength. Okay, can we go now? Mu Qingchen reminded her. The forest may not be very peaceful tonight. Are you sure you don't want to rest for a while? I can't rest anymore. Gu Jiao said and signaled to the south of the forest with her eyes. Mu Qingchen frowned and looked in that direction. He saw Qi Xian, who was wearing a silver robe, strolling in the night. Qi Xian looked at Mu Qingchen happily and greeted him with a smile. Young Master Qingchen, long time no see. How are you? Mu Qingchen asked warily. Qi Xian? What are you going to do? Qi Xian smiled and said, kill people and save people. When he said this, his eyes paused for a moment on Gu Jiao and the young princess. His meaning was obvious. The one he wanted to kill was Gu Jiao, and the one he wanted to take away was the young princess. In your dreams. Mu Qingchen stepped forward and stood in front of Gu Jiao. Qi Xian patted his palm with the folding fan. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Mu and Su families. This has nothing to do with young Master Qingchen. Young Master Qingchen, hand over the young princess and Xiao Lulang and I won't stop you from leaving. Mu Qingchen said coldly, you have a big appetite. Qi Xian pondered for a moment and said with a smile, it seems that my appetite is indeed a little too big. How about this? I'll let you take the young commandery princess away. I won't fight with you for this credit for the time being. You can leave Xiao Lulang behind. Mu Qingchen handed the young princess in his arms to the guard beside him and said to him and Gu Jiao, you two go first. Gu Jiao said indifferently, you are no match for him. Qi Xian was a master of the Tang sect and had more than 10 years of internal energy than Mu Qingchen. Mu Qingchen said in a low voice, I will hold him back. As long as you escape, he won't dare to kill me. Otherwise, once the news of Mu Qingchen's death spread, the Han family would not be able to protect Qi Xian. With Qi Xian's hearing, he heard every word. He laughed until he was convulsing. After laughing enough, he looked at Mu Qingchen sympathetically. Young Master Qingchen, why do you have to do this? Do you know who he is? Listen to me. He is not worth it. Mu Qingchen said, cut the crap. Qi Xian stopped laughing. He killed Nangong Li. Mu Qingchen's pupils shrank. Qi Xian raised his eyebrows. You really don't know. As he said, he looked at Gu Jiao who was beside Mu Qingchen. He is a spy from the Zhao kingdom. He is the one who killed Nangong Li. He approached you just to use you. Don't be fooled by him. I know that the big families are secretly competing with each other, but General Nangong is a famous general of the Yan kingdom. Shouldn't we work together to fight the enemy now that he was killed by a spy from a lower country? Mu Qingchen clenched the long sword in his hand. Of course, the national enmity came first. The guard looked at his young master worriedly. Young master won't. Whoosh. Qi Xian made a move. But it was not aimed at Gu Jiao, but at Mu Qingchen. He wanted to defeat Mu Qingchen with one move and make him lose all his resistance. However, his hand did not touch Mu Qingchen at all. Mu Qingchen was pushed away by Gu Jiao in time. Qi Xian smiled in surprise. Boy, you have been watching. Take this. He waved his folding fan, and a row of hidden weapons with cold internal force flew toward Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao held little Jing Kong and stepped on a big tree. She somersaulted to avoid the attack, and the hidden weapons were nailed into the tree. The tree withered rapidly. The hidden weapons were poisonous. Mu Qingchen pulled out his sword and stabbed at Qi Xian. Qi Xian waved his fan to block it, and a hidden weapon shot out from his fingertip. Mu Qingchen blocked it with his sword. The force was so great that the hidden weapon and the sword actually made sparks in the night. Mu Qingchen's eyes darkened. Qi Xian was too powerful. They were no match for him. Mu Qingchen gritted his teeth. When he raised his long sword again, a white hand reached out and grabbed his wrist. "Let me," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen frowned slightly. "I know you are powerful, but you are no match for him. He has some scruples when fighting with me, but he won't be polite to you. It's not certain who will be rude." Gu Jiao handed little Jing Kong to Mu Qingchen, grabbed the red-tasseled spear, and walked forward calmly. "I'll fight with you." Qi Xian smiled. "Oh," Gu Jiao said, "but I have a condition." Qi Xian said, "Go ahead." Gu Jiao said, "You have to give me 3 moves." Qi Xian said with amusement, "No problem. I can give you 30 moves, let alone 3. "That's not necessary." Gu Jiao said generously, "I'll count to 3, and we'll start. I'll prepare some hidden weapons. You're not allowed to launch a sneak attack." "Okay." 1. Gu Jiao stabbed his thigh with her spear. Qi Xian. Digression. The double monthly votes have begun. Dear big brothers and little fairies, please give me a wave of monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/896428826/1067849775. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Version Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 742. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. The night was dark. In the purple bamboo forest of the State Preceptor Hall, a small bamboo house was lit by a weak oil lamp. The State Preceptor sat on a cushion. "Master." He just opened the curtain to report the progress of finding the young princess to the State Preceptor. Senior Yi Qing still hasn't found anything, so he didn't know if he should send more people. When the words reached his lips, he saw the State Preceptor sitting motionless in front of the small table. His voice suddenly swallowed. There were 3 teacups on the table. One in front of the State Preceptor, one in the seat next to the State Preceptor, and one in front of the State Preceptor. Is Master waiting for a friend? Master doesn't have any friends. He entered the State Preceptor Hall for 10 years and never saw his master close to anyone. Oh, except for the chess game with old Mr. Meng. But the friendship between his master and old Mr. Meng was limited to chess. The position of the teacups was also very strange. Why was there someone sitting next to his master? Shouldn't it all be on the opposite side? This wasn't the first time he saw this scene. He always didn't understand what his master was doing. He privately asked Senior Yi Qing, but Senior Yi Qing just told him not to ask too much and not to disturb his master at this time. He carefully put down the curtain and silently left. Thinking of the scene of his master sitting there, who knows if he was waiting or reminiscing, Yuhi's expression paused. Master has two very important friends. He thought. In the forest, Qi Xian was stabbed with a face full of confusion. What happened to the 1, 2, 3? Did you eat 2, 3, 3? Young people don't talk about martial ethics. Qi Xian lived for more than 30 years and really never saw such a sinister and cunning person. What kind of dirty tricks are not as ruthless as this? Qi Xian was so shocked that even his instincts were slowed down for a second. He stared at Gu Jiao in a daze. Gu Jiao looked at him innocently and turned the red tasseled spear in his thigh. Fuck. Qi Xian was in so much pain that all the hair on his body stood up and his facial features almost escaped from his face. You stab is enough, you still turn. You think you're stirring meat. Qi Xian finally regained his senses. He sent a palm strike towards Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao had already predicted this move of his. She kicked his palm and borrowed the force of his attack to send herself flying. The red tasseled spear was also pulled out. Blood spurted out from Qi Xian's thigh. He had never seen such an infuriating person. Qi Xian gritted his teeth and sealed the major acupoint on his leg, sealing the spurting blood. He quickly tore off a piece of his clothes and wrapped it around his wound. His series of movements were as smooth as flowing water. It was obvious that he had suffered many injuries when he practiced martial arts in the past. No one was born an expert. Although talent was important, if one didn't train hard, it would be impossible to reach a realm that ordinary people couldn't touch. Gu Jiao steadied herself 10 steps away from Qi Xian. The red tasseled spear was truly a good item. It could be used for both offense and defense. It could be used to fight openly and covertly. If necessary, it could be used for a sneak attack. Gu Jiao looked at Qi Xian provocatively. Didn't you say you'd let me have 3 moves? Why did you go back on your words? Qi Xian angrily said, You said you'd only start when you counted to 3. Gu Jiao said, I didn't say I'd count with my mouth. I counted to 3 in my heart. Qi Xian's mouth twitched. Qi Xian decided not to waste any more words with Gu Jiao. Otherwise, he would die from anger before the fight even started. Qi Xian directly attacked. However, as soon as Qi Xian raised his hand, he sensed that something was wrong. What was going on? Why couldn't his arm exert any strength? Qi Xian glared at Gu Jiao fiercely. Brat! What did you do to me? Nothing, I just smeared something on the tip of the spear. Gu Jiao had already noticed that there was someone in the forest. Her intuition told her that it was a very powerful expert, so she did something to the tip of the spear. She did it very secretly. Even Mu Qingchen and the gods beside her thought that she was just cleaning the spear. Qi Xian felt the internal force in his body. It was terrible. He could barely feel it. What is it? Gu Jiao said, Neurotoxin. Qi Xian was puzzled. What kind of toxin? Gu Jiao shrugged. Forget it if you don't understand. Damn it. He was a member of the Tang sect. There was actually a poison in the world that he had never heard of. Gu Jiao did not give Qi Xian a chance to breathe. She held the red tasseled spear and rushed toward Qi Xian. I'll take your life when you're sick. There was not much neurotoxin. She had to seize the opportunity. However, just as Gu Jiao approached Qi Xian, a man of sacrifice from the Han family rushed out from the forest. The man of sacrifice blocked the spear for Qi Xian. Mu Qingchen handed little Jing Kong to the guard beside him. The guard held one in each hand and looked at his master in confusion. Leave him to me. Mu Qingchen forced the man of sacrifice to take a few steps back. Gu Jiao attacked Qi Xian again. Qi Xian grabbed Gu Jiao's red tasseled spear. He used all his internal force to snatch the spear and threw it into the depths of the forest. The red tasseled spear was not heavy, so he could still throw it. If it was Shen Yuan Li's magical weapon, he would not be able to pick it up. As expected of Qi Xian from the Tang sect, he could still fight in this state. Gu Jiao clenched her fist and punched Qi Xian's face. Qi Xian's head was tilted and a tooth flew out. Gu Jiao raised her leg and kicked him into the sky. She leaped onto a tree branch, and when Qi Xian fell from the sky, she flew up and stomped down on Qi Xian's dantian. Qi Xian accelerated and fell to the ground, creating a large crater on the spot. Gu Jiao grabbed the tree branch with one hand and landed beside the hole. Gu Jiao raised her leg again and mercilessly stomped on Qi Xian's head. Unexpectedly, a bony hand grabbed her leg. Under the dust, Qi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled coldly. "It's time to end this." Gu Jiao instantly felt Qi Xian's majestic and vast inner strength. It only numbed him for a short while. Gu Jiao tried to pull her leg back. She could not. Qi Xian was full of murderous intent. He said word by word, "I said it's time to end this." As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed Gu Jiao's ankle and twisted it. "You broke Han Ye's hamstring. Fine, I'll break one of your legs first as interest." With a loud bang, Qi Xian was blasted flying by a strand of sword qi that was like a graceful swan. He stood on the tree branch and steadied himself. This familiar sword energy was. He took a closer look. Under the moonlight, Gu Chongqing held a cold sword and stood in front of Gu Jiao like a cold-faced demon. What a powerful sword energy! Qi Xian narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Chongqing. He then looked at the 100-foot-long gully on the ground caused by the sword energy. He clenched his fists. Why was it this person again? He was the one who broke Han Ye's hamstring last time. Damn it! He still had poison in his body and was injured by that brat's sneak attack. He snorted coldly. "I'll let you go today. The next time I see you, it'll be the day you die." He used his qinggong to leave. Gu Chongqing did not chase him. His sister was more important than the enemy. Gu Chongqing turned around and asked Gu Jiao, "Are you hurt?" "No." Gu Jiao shook her head. Gu Chongqing was still worried. He handed the sword to Gu Jiao and let Gu Jiao hold it. He knelt down on one knee and held up his sister's leg. He pinched it to make sure it was not swollen or cracked. Only then did he feel relieved. On the other side, Mu Qingchen also finished his battle. He was not used to killing people, so he knocked the men of sacrifice out. He walked over. Gu Jiao raised her dirty hand and wiped Gu Chongqing's face. His sister's face was covered in dirt. Well, he would not wash his face today. Mu Qingchen looked at the two of them and asked about Gu Jiao's condition. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Gu Jiao said. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Chongqing. "He is... I don't know him. He's from the same hometown." Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing said in unison. "He's from the same hometown. I don't know him." Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing said in unison again. Mu Qingchen was speechless. "Do I look gullible?" Mu Qingchen snorted. "Don't say it if you don't want to. I don't have to know." "Oh." Gu Jiao did not say anything. Mu Qingchen was speechless. Gu Chongqing's arrival made Gu Jiao feel much more relaxed. They encountered several groups of men of sacrifice and guards, but they were all taken care of by Gu Chongqing alone. Gu Chongqing fought, fed his sister, and hugged little Jing Kong. Throughout the whole process, Gu Jiao ate, and ate. Gu Jiao finished the last piece of dried meat and burped. "We are almost out of the forest. There shouldn't be any masters who can fight, right?" Mu Qingchen pondered for a moment. "There is one who may be more troublesome than Qi Xian." Gu Jiao asked, "Who is it?" Mu Qingchen said solemnly, "Taoist Qing Feng from the Feng family. He is a real martial arts genius. He is only 26 years old, but his inner strength is much stronger than Qi Xian's. If we encounter him, we can only wait to be beaten up." Somewhere in the forest, Feng Wuxiu squatted on the ground and drew circles. He looked hopeless. "Brother, are you sure you are in the right place?" Taoist Qing Feng nodded. "Yes. But we have already walked around 7 times. Feng Wuxiu looked up and pointed at an old locust tree. "I will leave a mark here every time I come here. There are already 7 marks now." Taoist Qing Feng stood in the air under the moonlight. He looked like a celestial being. His slender fingers pinched a hand-drawn sheepskin map. He studied the map carefully and said confidently, "This is how I walked. I've been to this forest before and even walked out." Feng Wuxiu asked, "How long did it take you to walk out last time?" "Not long." Taoist Qing Feng said, "A month." Feng Wuxiu was speechless. Feng Wuxiu clenched his fists. He was so angry that his teeth almost broke. He stood up and roared like a lion, "That's the reason why you only came home after 3 years. Digression, it is the end of the month. Don't waste the monthly votes, the latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1067800549. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 743. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. Gu Jiao and the others finally walked out of the forest at dawn. Only then did they realize that they were in the opposite direction from where they came in. Mu Qingchen looked ahead and said, "The official road is after crossing the ridge in front of us. Keep going south and you'll see a courier station." If there was a courier station, there would be carriages and horses. The horse that Gu Jiao brought out from the State Preceptor Hall was so tired that Gu Jiao didn't ride it anymore. Mu Qingchen's bodyguard led the horse. Gu Chongqing carried little Jing Kong while Mu Qingchen carried the young princess. They continued on their way. However, when they were crossing the ridge, a small incident occurred. The young Canton princess suddenly had difficulty breathing. Not long after, her face turned pale and her lips turned black. "Let me take a look." Gu Jiao walked over and leaned over to listen to the young princess's heartbeat and breathing. Mu Qingchen's breath stopped when he saw her suddenly approaching. He looked at the young princess in his arms and then looked at Gu Jiao's face. He couldn't help but cough. "How is she?" "It seems that she has an asthma attack." Gu Jiao took off the first aid kit from her waist and took out a bottle of asthma aerosol. "Young princess." The young princess opened her eyes and looked at Gu Jiao sadly. Gu Jiao carried her over and found a place to sit down. She shook the aerosol and pulled out the cork. "Breathe out the air first and hold it in your mouth. Breathe in when I tell you to. Don't spit it out after you wash." The young princess nodded weakly. It was said that chronic illness made the doctor. The young princess who suffered from asthma had been taking medicine since she was a child. She was more cooperative in treatment than other children. "Breathe out," Gu Jiao said. After the young princess breathed out, Gu Jiao put the nozzle into her mouth and pressed the switch of the aerosol. "Breathe in. I'll hit you 10 times before you exhale." The young commandery princess held the spit in her mouth obediently. Although she felt uncomfortable holding it, she could only look at Gu Jiao. 10 done, Gu Jiao said. The young princess heaved a long sigh. "Are you feeling better?" Gu Jiao asked her. The young commandery princess took a few deep breaths. Phew. Not feeling any discomfort, the young princess opened her eyes wide in surprise. Did she recover so quickly? The imperial physicians regularly treated the young princess. In addition, Yen Shanjun and the monarch had taken good care of her these past few years, so her asthma rarely flared up. Gu Jiao suspected that the young princess had inhaled some allergens in the forest, which caused her to have an acute attack. "What kind of medicine is this?" It's so effective. In the past, it would take a long time for the young princess to recover from her relapse. The imperial physicians said that she would not recover every time. Therefore, prevention was the most important thing, and they tried their best not to let her relapse. Gu Jiao asked, "This is a special medicine for asthma." Mu Qingchen asked confusedly, "You still have this medicine with you? Shouldn't a martial artist carry gold sore ointment, hemostatic ointment, and detoxification pills? Didn't you tell me that the young princess has asthma?" Since Mu Qingchen told her, she had prepared a bottle of asthma aerosol in the first aid kit. Mu Qingchen took a deep look at Gu Jiao and suddenly fell silent. "Go and get some water," Mu Qingchen said to the guard. Yes. There was a stream on the road they just walked on. It might be the stream they saw in the depths of the forest. It kept winding to the nearby area. Mu Qingchen wanted to carry the young princess over. The young princess clung to Gu Jiao's neck tightly and did not want to let go. "I want teacher to carry me." "Your body is hard. Teacher's body is soft." Like. Gu Jiao covered her little mouth and said to Mu Qingchen, "Let me carry you." "Little girl, don't go too far by rubbing my chest." "Young master. Young master." The guard came back in a hurry. Mu Qingchen saw that the guard did not get any water and knew that something had happened. "What's wrong?" Mu Qingchen asked. The guard said, "I went to get some water. On the way, I met people from our family and the Mu family." The Su family and the Mu family. Gu Chongqing did not have a good impression of the 10 great families. He was ready to kill one of them if 2 came. Mu Qingchen looked at the back of the forest and frowned. It seemed that he was struggling in his heart. Finally he said to Gu Jiao, "You go first. Don't walk on the ridge. It's too wide and easy to be found. You can take a detour and go out from the other side of the forest. Or I can take them back first. You can come out later." It was not easy to make him say such words. In his heart, he did not believe that the Mu family and the Su family would take the young princess away. But, he did not know why, but he felt that it was right to let them leave first. Maybe he already had a guess in his heart that he did not want to face. "Then we'll go." Gu Jiao turned around with the young princess in her arms. "Goodbye, Mu Qingchen." The young princess waved her hand obediently. "Goodbye, Mu Qingchen." Gu Chongqing followed her with little Jing Kong in his arms. They walked a few steps to the east and entered the forest. When they were far away, they could still hear the conversation there. "Qingchen, why are you here? Have you found any clues?" "No, second uncle. But I heard that the young princess has gone back." "What? Gone back?" "Yes. I met an injured guard just now. I don't know which family he belongs to. He said that he saw someone take the young princess out of the forest and walk in the direction of the ridge. The young princess is safe. She's fine. Then we came here in vain. I don't know if it's too late to go after them now." Mu Qingchen looked at his second uncle with disappointment in his eyes. The young princess lay in Gu Jiao's arms for a while and fell asleep again. Gu Jiao looked at the little girl in her arms and said, "I didn't expect that the disappearance of a little girl would cause all kinds of monsters to come out." Gu Chongqing said, "The top 10 aristocratic families are not on good terms. This day will come sooner or later. In the past, everyone was jealous of the Shenyuan family and wanted to get rid of them. But when the Shenyuan family really died, they all wanted to be the next Shenyuan family." Gu Jiao asked, "By the way, why are you here?" Gu Chongqing said, "Xiaoheng told me." He had planned to go out of the city to see Gu Yan, but Xiaoheng caught up with him when he reached the gate of the inner city. Gu Jiao asked, "Did you tell him that you were going out of the city?" Gu Chongqing said, "No. He guessed it himself." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "My husband is so smart." Gu Chongqing's face darkened. The forest was against the mountain and the light was not very good. The two walked very carefully. Gu Jiao asked again, "By the way, is everything going well with the crown prince?" Gu Chongqing said, "It's going well." Gu Jiao said, He's so trusting of the people sent by the underground martial arts arena? Gu Chongqing explained, he gave me a kind of poison. I have to take the antidote once a month, or I'll die. Gu Jiao looked at him, you drank it? Yes. Gu Chongqing nodded and looked at Gu Jiao, I think you can cure it. Gu Jiao said, I don't think I can cure it. Gu Chongqing was speechless. Gu Jiao's ears twitched. She turned her head and looked into the depths of the forest. There seems to be some movement over there. Gu Chongqing looked over. I heard it too. Should we go and take a look? Gu Jiao thought for a while. Let's go and take a look. Gu Chongqing carried little Jing Kong with one hand and wrapped his other hand around Gu Jiao's waist. He used his qing gong to bring her over. The two hid behind a big tree with the child in their arms. About 100 steps away, a young man in a Taoist robe was fighting with two masked men in black. In the middle of their fight, there was a handsome, young man. It's Feng Wuxiu and Taoist Qing Feng, Gu Jiao whispered. You know them? Gu Chongqing asked in a low voice. Gu Jiao nodded. I've seen Taoist Qing Feng in the Grand Preceptor Hall. I've seen Feng Wuxiu's portrait in the library. Why is Feng Wuxiu younger than in the portrait? Feng Wuxiu was 23 years old, but he looked less than 20 years old in the portrait. Now that she saw the real person, he looked 3 years younger. Feng Wuxiu's age was not a lie. He was just naturally young. Taoist Qing Feng and the two men in black were fighting fiercely. The men in black were not much weaker than Qi Xian. The two of them together were equivalent to Qi Xian 2.0. Gu Jiao sighed. The Yen Kingdom is really full of masters. Who do you think will win? That Taoist priest, Gu Chongqing answered without hesitation. The two men in black used their killer moves. Taoist Qing Feng held back. In order to prevent his inner energy from affecting Feng Wuxiu, he split each move into two. One move was used to defend against the enemy, and the other was used to remove his inner energy from a certain part of his body. It was the first time Gu Chongqing saw such a fighting style. It was an eye-opener for him. Gu Jiao watched intently. It seems that Mu Qingchen was right. Luckily, we didn't meet this Taoist priest from the Feng family. The fight is almost over. Let's go. They were only halfway through the fight, but Gu Chongqing could already tell how long it would take for Taoist Qing Feng to defeat the two men in black. Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing returned to the State Preceptor Hall at noon. The two children had woken up and had eaten at the relay station. However, their bodies and faces were still dirty and they looked a little miserable. Gu Jiao could not check their injuries at night. When she got on the carriage, she found that they had different degrees of bruises and abrasions. They were all bruises and abrasions from the road. Xiao Hang had been waiting at the entrance of the State Preceptor Hall for a long time. Gu Chongqing and Gu Jiao got off the carriage with the children in their arms. Xiao Hang quickly walked over and looked at the two little fellows who were in a terrible state. His eyes turned cold. He looked at Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing. Are you okay? We're fine. This time, she and Gu Chongqing were really fine. Only the two little ones had suffered a lot. Let me do it. Xiao Hang reached out and took little Jing Kong from Gu Chongqing's arms. For the first time, little Jing Kong did not protest. Although his face was ugly, his body was very honest. He lay in Xiao Heng's arms obediently and breathed in Xiao Heng's scent. He came to the family when he was 3.5 years old. 2 years had passed. He not only relied on Gu Jiao deeply, but also relied on Xiao Heng from the bottom of his heart. It was just like a child who loved his mother the most, but he would not abandon his father. Xiao Heng looked down at the little boy lying in his arms. Are you scared? He was too weak to be a demon. No. Little Jing Kong snorted and said, I'm just tired. He could still argue with him, so it should not be a big problem. Xiao Heng laughed. Okay, you're tired. I'll let you rest today. I don't do homework. Okay. And I want to eat candy. Okay. Little Jing Kong rolled his grape-like big eyes. It was rare for his bad brother-in-law to be so reasonable. He decided to ask for a small benefit for himself. Xiao Hang saw through his little brother. He pinched his little face and said, "Don't overdo it. Otherwise, you'll confiscate the ones in front of you." Little Jing Kong's face darkened in a second. He was indeed a bad brother-in-law. Xiao Hang suppressed the smile on his face and said to Gu Jiao, "I'll take Jing Kong to take a bath first. If someone asks, I'll say that he saved my aunt. I have to let him stay in the State Preceptor Palace for a few days." This was a good reason. "I have a question. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Shouldn't he call her aunt?" Gu Jiao asked. Xiao Hang smiled gently and said, "His Majesty's surname is Shangguan. According to the custom of the great Yan dynasty, people with the same surname should be called aunt." Gu Jiao suddenly understood. "Oh, I see. Then I'll send little princess back to the palace first." Xiao Hang looked at little princess who was holding Gu Jiao's neck and said, "No, the monarch is on his way." Speak of the devil. The monarch heard that little princess was sent back to the palace, but she was nowhere to be seen. So, he wanted to go to the State Preceptor Palace to ask about the situation. When he learned that little princess was in the Qilin Hall, he rushed there without hesitation. "Your Majesty, please slow down." Zhang Dequan almost couldn't catch up with him. "Your Majesty, you're so old. Do you think you're still young? Aren't you afraid of falling?" Light Shui. Before the monarch arrived, his voice came first. Little princess raised her little head from Gu Jiao's arms and looked at the door. The moment the monarch rushed in, little princess cried, "Oh, Uncle Your Majesty, there's a bad guy who wants to catch me." It was inconvenient for Gu Chongqing to show up, so he left after sending Gu Jiao. They were in the room next to Shangguan Yan's. Other than little princess, there were only Gu Jiao, Xiao Hang, and little Jing Kong in the room. The monarch looked at the two wretched children and was instantly enraged. Gu Jiao didn't mind adding oil to the fire. This morning, little princess had an asthma attack. Her condition is very critical. The monarch looked at little princess who was crying and gasping for breath. Little princess sobbed and nodded. "I can't breathe, it's so uncomfortable." The monarch asked with heartache, "Are you still unable to breathe?" Little princess sobbed and shook her head. "I can't breathe now. My teacher gave me medicine." The monarch asked Zhang Dequan to take the two children next door to eat something. Then, he looked at Gu Jiao with a complicated expression and asked in a deep voice, "You were the one who found the young princess?" Gu Jiao said bluntly, "Yes." The monarch asked suspiciously, "How did you find her?" "Are you suspecting me of embezzlement?" Gu Jiao said, "I have an eagle. It found her." The monarch was skeptical. "Your eagle can find people?" "It has been trained." Gu Jiao said. "That's strange." Gu Jiao said in her heart, "I've seen that eagle." Xiao Hang said, "The two children have also seen it. That eagle knows them." The monarch trusted Shangguan Qing very much. He didn't dwell on this, but asked Gu Jiao, "Where's the person who took little princess?" "I didn't see him." Xiao Hang said first. Gu Jiao said without changing her expression, "Yes, I didn't see him. The two children escaped into the forest from where they were imprisoned. I found them in the forest." "I see." The monarch went next door to ask little Jing Kong and little princess. After all, little princess was only 4 years old. The clues she could give were limited. She only remembered that she was caught again and again, but she couldn't remember what those people looked like. Little Jing Kong remembered the appearance of the peddler, the man in black, and the master of the Dong family. But Xiao Hang just told him not to say that he didn't remember because he didn't see clearly. Zhang Dequan said, "Your Majesty, the two children are still young. It's normal that they can't remember clearly after such a big scare." The monarch left the Qilin Hall with a gloomy face. Gu Jiao looked at the monarch's receding figure and asked Xiao Hang, "Why didn't you tell Jing Kong and me?" Xiao Hang took her hand and tucked her hair behind her ear. "Because we don't have enough evidence even if we tell them. Maybe the aristocratic families will join hands and accuse us." Gu Jiao asked, So we'll just let it go like this. Xiaohang combed her hair. No. The monarch won't. Little princess has suffered so much this time and almost lost her life. The monarch won't let it go. Those who are scheming behind our backs will soon realize that they have overestimated their abilities. On the third floor of the book collection pavilion, the monarch and the state preceptor sat opposite each other and drank tea. The state preceptor poured tea for the monarch and himself. Your Majesty, do you really want to do this? The monarch said seriously, That's right. The state preceptor smiled faintly, picked up the teacup and took a sip. We agreed at the beginning that the state preceptor hall will not intervene in the affairs of the imperial court, will not participate in the struggle for power, and will not ask about the aristocratic families. The monarch said earnestly, I am not ordering you as the monarch of a country, but as an old friend asking you to help me. The state preceptor stopped drinking tea. Yi Qing stepped forward and saluted. Disciple is here. The state preceptor asked, What time is it? Yi Qing replied respectfully, It's just past noon. The state preceptor said faintly, Master wants to see the mastermind behind the kidnapping of the little princess. Yi Qing's expression was solemn. Disciple accepts the order. Digression. The last 2 days, the tickets were cleared. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-82642-826/1067644137. HTML Genius, remember the address of this site in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Version Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 744. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. The Mu family. Old Master Mu sat on the main seat. All the people who went to do things had returned. It was his second son, Mu Hong, who came to report to him. Father. Mu Hong stood in front of Old Master Mu and reported what happened in the forest truthfully. The families are fighting fiercely. I don't know who sent the young commandery princess back. Humph. Old Master Mu snorted coldly. They all look aloof from worldly affairs, but they are secretly more powerful than anyone else. Mu Hong said, I heard that there were many casualties. The specific situation depends on what the major families say. Old Master Mu frowns and says, I didn't expect so many things to be involved in this. Mu Hong said with shame, It wasn't so troublesome. If that little bastard hadn't escaped with a young commandery princess, we wouldn't have gone all the way to look for them. In the end, we led the people from the major families there. If they had stayed in that house quietly, who would have found out? But things had come to this point. It was useless to say these regretful words. It's all that little bastard's fault. Mu Hong couldn't help but complain. Who would have thought that a 5-year-old little bastard would mess up the Mu family's overall plan? Old Master Mu exhaled deeply. Have you dealt with everything that should be dealt with? Mu Hong said, Father, don't worry. All the evidence has been destroyed. Old Master Mu said again, What about the people who caught the young commandery princess? The young commandery princess has seen their faces. Mu Hong replied, They are dead. I don't know which family killed them. Dead men tell no tales. No one will find out that it was the Mu family. Old Master Mu said thoughtfully, The fox of the Dong family seems to know a lot of things. Mu Hong said indifferently, He's not afraid even if he knows, unless he can show evidence. But the Dong family is not clean. He doesn't have the guts to bite the Mu family. Although the undercurrents between aristocratic families were turbulent, there were some shady dealings that no one would reveal to the surface. If the Han family and Mu family hadn't acted against Consort Wan first, the Mu family wouldn't have thought of using this kind of method to suppress the Han family. Grandpa Mu closes his eyes and sighs. That's it. Don't mention it again. Tell your men to keep their mouths shut. Mu Hong cupped his hands and bowed. Yes, Father. I understand. What are you doing here? Mu Tao's shout suddenly came from outside the door. Grandpa Mu frowns warily. Mu Hong turned around and quickly walked to the door. He opened the door and bumped into Mu Chuan, who was shaking outside the door. Mu Chuan looked at Mu Hong in horror. Mu Hong also looked at him in surprise. The two of them had different feelings of shock. Mu Chuan's had a hint of unfamiliarity and fear, as well as a slightly complicated feeling. Mu Hong quickly came back to his senses. He looked at Mu Tao, who was striding forward, and greeted him. Big brother. Mu Tao grabbed Mu Chuan's wrist and walked out. Brat, who allowed you to enter your grandfather's courtyard? Didn't you go to school? Why didn't you say hello when you came back? Mu Chuan's feet were nailed to the ground. Is it true? He asked. Mu Tao paused. He looked past Mu Chuan and at Mu Hong, who was inside the door. Mu Hong took a deep breath and asked slowly, Xiao Chuan, how much did you hear? Mu Chuan's eyes turned red. I heard everything. Mu Hong looked at Mu Chuan and said, Listen to second uncle and forget what you heard. Mu Chuan shook off his father's hand, raised his hand to wipe his eyes, and quickly walked out of the door with red eyes. Mu Tao frowned. Where are you going? Mu Chuan choked. I'm going to tell fourth brother. Mu Tao's face darkened. Brat, come back here. Mu Hong looked at Mu Tao. Big brother. Mu Tao nodded knowingly. I know what to do. I will let Xiao Chuan stay at home for the next 2 days. Mu Tao grabbed Mu Chuan back and locked him in his own courtyard. He let the guards and the Mu family's men of sacrifice take turns to watch him. The Mu family, which was thought to be foolproof, was approached by people from the state preceptor's hall. The leader was Yi Qing, the chief disciple of the state preceptor. Yi Qing was wearing a dark blue robe of the state preceptor's hall. The white edge of the lapel and collar were embroidered with light blue bamboo leaves, which was the symbol of an inner disciple. Yi Qing held a long sword and stood outside the gate of the Mu family with a stern expression. Under the orders of the state preceptor, I invite family head Mu to the state preceptor's hall. Mu Tao and Mu Hong went out to greet him. Mu Tao was shocked and guilty at this scene, but he still said politely, My father is not well. I don't know what the state preceptor wants to say. Why don't I go with you? Yi Qing held his long sword horizontally. You are not qualified. Mu Tao frowned. Yi Qing, I'll say it again. Under the orders of the state preceptor, I invite family head Mu to the state preceptor's hall. The Mu family's guard said disdainfully, Are you inviting or arresting people? Don't you know some etiquette? My master is someone you can take away if you want to. Ah. He was stunned by Yi Qing's internal force. Yi Qing didn't even use his sword. At this time, Yi Qing was no longer the modest and gentle senior brother of the state preceptor's hall. He was an unsheathed sword with a sharp edge. Mu Tao suppressed his anger and asked, When did your state preceptor's hall start to intervene in our family's affairs? Yi Qing, no comment. Mu Tao took a deep look at Yi Qing and said to Mu Hong, Go and inform father. No need. Old Master Mu walked calmly from the Mu family's residence. Mu Tao and Mu Hong turned around and saluted Old Master Mu. Father. Old Master Mu stood on the high steps and looked down at Yi Qing. Since the state preceptor has invited you, this old man will go with you. A straight body is not afraid of a crooked shadow. This old man doesn't believe that your state preceptor's hall can wrong this old man's innocence for no reason. Yi Qing said lightly, I didn't say anything bad or good. Why do you say that? Family head Moo shouldn't be guilty. Old Master Moo snorted coldly. Don't argue with this old man. When this old man worked for the imperial court, you were still reincarnated in some place. Yi Qing sneered. Is that so? Please. Mu Tao and Mu Hong said in unison, Father. Old Master Mu gave them a reassuring look. What should be cleaned up has been cleaned up. Even the State Preceptor's Hall can't find any evidence. Qilin Hall. Little Jing Kong took a bath comfortably in the next room. In order to comfort his injured little heart, he didn't have to bathe himself. He lay in the small bathtub all the time. Ah, he raised his little arm, revealing his little dimples. I also need to wash here, aheng, and here. He raised his little feet again and scratched them with his toes smugly. The feeling of ordering a bad brother-in-law is too good. I feel that my child has reached the peak. Xiao Hang looked at him with a fake smile. Fine, you can show off. When Zhao Zhao is gone, see how I deal with you. Digression. There is one more chapter. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/896428266/1067616661. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 745. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. The novels that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. Xiao Hang took very good care of the little, sick, egg, ghost. He took a bubble bath the whole time, and after washing, he even gave him a full body massage and applied the baby's prickly heat powder in the small medicine box. Here, and here. Wow, I smell so good. I want to let Zhao Zhao smell me. Zhao Zhao likes me the most. Nonsense, it's clearly me. Gu Zhao was also bathing and could not be seen for the time being. A certain white and tender little wax gourd rolled on the bed and supported his head with one hand. Lying down like a little Buddha, he said with an accent, Hang, bring me some tea. Xiao Hung. I think you're asking for a beating. Little Jing Kong was crazily testing the edge of death. He did not realize that his bad brother-in-law's gaze was becoming dangerous. After taking a bath, he felt refreshed all over. Not long after, he fell asleep on his back. There was wind today, so it was still cool. Xiao Hang called a disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Hall and had him look after little Jing Kong. The corridor on the right side of the Qilin Hall was a rather special place. There were no unrelated people living in it. The room closest to the operating room was Shangguan Yen and Gu Jiao's room. He lived next door. The room opposite was empty. Xiao Hang had the disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Hall clean up a room for Gu Jiao. Xiao Hang arrived in front of the room. Just as he was about to knock on the door was open from the inside. Gu Jiao had just finished bathing and changed into a clean young man's robe. Her long hair was wet and draped over her shoulders and back. There was also a strand of hair that fell on her forehead. The water droplets trembled at the tip of her hair. They were sparkling and translucent, reflecting thousands of rays of light. Her black hair was black and shiny, which made her skin look like jade. Her long eyelashes also had water droplets hanging on them. Her eyes were moist, and her lips were soft and bright red. Xiao Heng's throat moved. Gu Jiao looked at him with a smile. Xiao Heng realized that he had lost his composure. He cleared his throat and said, I came to see you. Is it convenient for me to come in? Gu Jiao stepped aside to let Xiao Hang in. Xiao Hang closed the door and went to the table. He poured himself a large cup of herbal tea and gulped it down. Only then did he feel the fire in his heart subside a little. Then, he looked at Gu Jiao. "It's not like you're drying your hair." "Oh," Gu Jiao said indifferently. "The weather is hot. It'll dry in a while." She went to the small table by the window and opened the small medicine box. Xiao Hang looked at the ointment she took out and asked, "Are you hurt?" Gu Jiao shook her head. "No, I was just bitten a few times by mosquitoes." The mosquitoes in the forest were too poisonous. She didn't feel anything when she was bitten, but when she took a bath, she found that she had several big bumps. "Was Jing Kong bitten by a mosquito?" she asked. "He's fine. There are only a few small red spots," Xiao Hang said as he walked over to her with a cotton towel. "Let me see. Where are you bitten?" Gu Jiao looked up and pointed to her neck. "Here." She rolled up her sleeves and pointed to her wrist. "And here." She didn't have any other thoughts. She just wanted to show him the big bumps caused by the mosquito bites. However, an indescribable thought flashed through Xiao Heng's mind. Thinking about it carefully, they hadn't been alone together for a long time. Even if she changed into a young man's robe and spoke in a young voice, as long as she was still her, he couldn't hide the impulse in his heart. "You." Gu Jiao stared at him blankly. Xiao Heng lowered his eyes. "I'll help you apply the ointment." "Okay." Gu Jiao handed him the cotton swab and ointment. Xiao Hang lowered his head, dipped the cotton swab in the ointment, and applied it little by little on the big bumps caused by the mosquito bites. He tried to get rid of all distracting thoughts, but a certain someone didn't give him a chance to calm down. "Lord Xiao, your heart is beating so fast." Gu Jiao put her hand on his chest. She had bathed in cold water, so her palm was cold. However, when she touched it, his heart became boiling hot. He grabbed her wrist and sighed helplessly. "Gu Jiao, Jiao, I can't concentrate on applying the ointment if you're like this." Gu Jiao, "Oh." Xiao Hang let go of her hand and continued to apply the ointment. Gu Jiao stopped and just stared at him. Then Xiao Hang heard the sound of saliva swallowing. Xiao Hang. Applying ointment was a common thing, but in this atmosphere, it became a very private thing. The atmosphere suddenly became ambiguous. Xiao Hang took a deep breath and calmly pulled her hand over. He rolled up her sleeves and applied the ointment evenly on each of her wounds. He finished slowly, and the entire process was done with ease and calmness. But the moment he placed the ointment on the table and threw the cotton swab into the basket, he suddenly clasped Gu Jiao's neck with one hand and lowered his head to kiss her deeply. He had been so calm earlier, like an old monk in meditation. Gu Jiao thought that he wouldn't do anything. This was too exciting. Gu Jiao's little heart contracted, and then she was swallowed by his domineering strength. He had really grown up. Were all men self-taught in this area? He was too good at it. It wasn't too hot today, and a cool breeze blew into the room. It was quite comfortable. "Your Highness Chong's son, I cut some fruits." "Ah. I didn't see anything." He covered his eyes with one hand and quickly turned around while holding the tray with one hand. He planned to leave, but after thinking about it, he still walked in and put the fruits on the table. Then he closed his eyes and walked out. He didn't dare to open his eyes and even bumped into the wall. After he blindly stepped over the threshold. He blindly closed the door for the two of them. You two continue." Gu Jiao couldn't help laughing. Xiao Heng's ears turned slightly red. Gu Jiao looked at him with a faint smile and said, "Will Xiao Qing beat you when he comes back?" She kissed a man in broad daylight and was caught by a disciple of the State Master Hall. Her 19 years of chastity were really ruined. Xiao Heng thought for a while. It was Shangguan Qing who was caught, not him. It was no longer awkward. "We'll talk about it when he comes back." He lifted her delicate chin and kissed her again. Little Jing Kong was so tired that he still hadn't woken up at 5 o'clock. Yi Qing, the eldest disciple, took Old Master Mu to the third floor of the book pavilion. Gu Jiao and Xiao Hang went to the second floor of the book pavilion to eavesdrop. They leaned against the window and pressed their ears against the wall. Gu Jiao asked, "Did you hear anything?" Xiao Hang shook his head. "No, what about you?" Gu Jiao said, "Neither did I. It shouldn't be." She saw that they were upstairs, right above her head. Why couldn't they hear anything? Was the book pavilion so soundproof? "Keep a lookout for me," Gu Jiao said to Xiao Hung. She was referring to the two disciples of the State Master Hall who were guarding the entrance of the second floor. "Okay," Xiao Hung said. Gu Jiao climbed out of the window on the second floor, grabbed the reliefs on the wall, and climbed to the third floor little by little. When she finally climbed to the window on the third floor, she saw a man of sacrifice of the State Master Hall with a very high realm standing in the window and looking at her expressionlessly. Gu Jiao, "Hello, Master." "Goodbye." Gu Jiao climbed down quickly. Xiao Hung carried Gu Jiao in. "Why are you so fast? Did you see them?" After Gu Jiao landed, she clapped her hands, took a long breath, and said, "Yes, I saw them. They were quarreling." On the third floor, Old Master Mu said confidently, "What evidence does the State Master Hall have to prove that the Mu family did it? We have never offended the State Master Hall. Why should we be slandered like this?" The State Master Hall said, "The divination has made it very clear that it was your family who did it." Old Master Mu looked up to the sky and laughed. "Divination? Ha, what a joke. Does the State Master Hall arrest people based on divination? You don't need evidence." The State Master Hall said calmly, "It is the method of the Rearguard Commandery and the Yamen of 3 departments to arrest people based on evidence. The State Master Hall relies on divination." What divination? The old faker must have heard something from somewhere, but he couldn't show any conclusive evidence, so he used divination to cover it up. He thought that the State Master Hall had the courage to arrest him because they had something on the Mu family. In this way he was not afraid. Old Master Mu sneered, "State Master, I don't doubt your ability. It's just that if you put the blame on the Mu family based on divination, I'm afraid that the people in the world will not believe it." The State Master Hall fell into deep thought. The State Master Hall really had no evidence. Grandpa Mu said fearlessly, "If you can show me the evidence, I'll give you my life." The State Master Hall said, "Yi Qing." Yi Qing said, "Yes, Master." The State Master Hall said, "Call the witness." Old Master Mu's face changed. Yi Qing went downstairs in person. Gu Jiao and Xiao Hang looked at the direction of the stairs from behind the bookshelf. Not long after, the two of them saw Yi Qing bring a middle-aged man with a fat figure upstairs. Gu Jiao was slightly surprised. "It's him." Xiao Hang asked, "Do you know him?" "Yes." Gu Jiao nodded. The State Master Hall looked at Old Master Mu. "Master Mu, do you know him?" Old Master Mu frowned. "No. His name is Pang Hai, the manager of the underground martial arts arena in Chengdu. Manager Pang happened to come to Chengdu." The State Master Hall said slowly, "Yi Qing, give me the portrait." Yi Qing took a portrait and handed it to Pang Hai. "Do you know this person?" The person in the portrait was the peddler who took the young princess. Pang Hai carefully stared at the portrait for a long time. "Ah, isn't this Tong 5? I almost didn't recognize him after changing his clothes. He is a master of our underground martial arts arena, but he has been away from the arena for several years." Yi Qing asked again, "Do you remember which family invited him away?" "Well..." Pang Hai hesitated. Yi Qing said seriously, "In front of His Majesty, I advise you not to hide anything." Pang Hai braced himself and said, "The Mu family." Like a bolt from the blue, Old Master Mu's whole body froze. Digression. Finished within a year. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10675868. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.